right then.
I wouldn't let me in here.
Did I read the email right?
Out next 2 weeks. This week and next.
You're out this week.
This week is Crawfish King competition, and then next week I'm out of state. I'm in Colorado. So please ask him not to charge me for those 2 weeks.
Done and done, sir.
Franz, you a Star Wars guy?
I am acquainted and a fan of a few of the movies. Yes. There's a lot of the movies.
Yeah.
There used to only be 3.
I know. And now there's like
6.
Okay.
there's
I wasn't bad. Prequels just weren't
It's the same.
4, 5, and 6.
Yeah. No,
I didn't really hate 7, 8, and 9. I liked Rogue One.
Rogue One's great.
Yeah.
I think that was the best movie they've made, Disney-wise.
The Han Solo story.
Could have done different again. He didn't need a backstory. They had infinite characters to choose from, and they chose the mysterious guy that was better left ambiguous before episode 4.
Weren't they gonna make one? Weren't they gonna make a movie with Han and Lando? Orlando.
they did Lando.
They're
That's
doing
Donald
a Lando.
Glover.
Yeah, they're doing a Lando series, I think.
I am excited about Obi-Wan.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. Why I asked that is one, have you made a movie?
Huh.
And two, do you have a favorite Star Wars theme? Something to play during one sentence.
I was a big fan of in Phantom Menace when they do the lightsaber fight. Yeah, I like that one. I mean, the Imperial March has always been a special place, has a special place in my heart. But
Not to choose. There's like even random scenes have some of the most beautiful pieces of music. Did y'all see Dave Chappelle get attacked on stage last night?
I heard about it. I didn't
by
see
whom?
it.
Who was he attacked?
Some dude just rushed the stage. He was in like a Hollywood Bowl, I think.
Okay.
He got attacked. Some dude tried to spear him, like tackle him,
Dave's a big dude.
and he missed, like kind of missed.
Right.
And then his entourage fucked up.
So Dave is a big dude.
Yeah.
Dave used to be tall and skinny and lanky. Now
He's got meat on the bone.
he's got a little meat on the bones. How was Fair Week? I didn't go.
You didn't go at all.
No, dude, I didn't think it was a. Are we on YouTube Live yet?
Kill
Yeah,
Mike's on.
I-
can't make sense of this. Hey, good morning, everybody. 606 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane off and running. I've got a microphone issue to start the morning off. Are you seeing this, Jake? Hey, Brian here with you. Jake producing.
Yeah,
It's like all snaked around.
It's a bit wonky, to put it lightly.
All right. So I tell you what we're gonna do here. No, what we're gonna do here is give me exactly 20 seconds. It's gonna be like 20 seconds of dead air, but kill my mic for 1 second.
Don't worry, people. I'll take over. If you're tuning in right now, there's a particular holiday that I'll be discussing in about 2 hours' time. And it's May the 4th. Happy May the 4th to all those tuning in.
Yes.
Brian's back
Spoiler
with us.
alert. We're gonna talk about that a lot today. On and off. We got a lot of... Where did I go? There I am. We got a lot of ground to cover today. I think it's all better now. We're good. Busy show. Very lawyer-laden show today. We are attorneyed up. We are lawyered up for the show. Franz Borghardt's going to be by. He's already here for Legally Served. That's coming up in about 20 minutes from right now. We are going to talk about the Supreme Court leak. I let you know right now, Franz, I don't care about your take on Roe v. Wade. I want to talk about the leak from a lawyer's perspective.
I don't want to talk about Roe. I don't feel
Okay,
like I'm...
no, good.
I don't have the right equipment to talk about it, so...
Really? Because I'm told that doesn't matter anymore. See, that's why I don't want
I
to...
do think the topic of the leak is significant, and I think the topic of precedent, if we have time to talk about that, about what this decision means for us relying on former cases, that's worth a conversation.
Yeah.
But I don't want to touch that with a poll.
All good. Oh,
My
wow. I knew you were going to follow up with that. Also, speaking of, Jared Ambo got Dennis Perkins' case pushed back. He's got some bench watching to do. We're going to cover that as well. And if we have time, we might touch on the story out of East Feliciana Parish, where two parents have now been indicted in a very, very sad and disgusting story. We'll get to all that. That's Legally Served. 7:15. District Attorney Tony Clayton, who brought down the house at the Rotary Club last week. My word, he was entertaining, and made a hell of a point. Talking about prosecuting juveniles as adults when they're charged with violent crimes. That's at 7:15. 7:35, Congressman Garret Graves is coming by for D.C. Current. 8 o'clock hour, we've got State Representative Richard Nelson from Mandeville giving us a little update on the state legislature. Couple of bills that Richard's working on that I'm interested in, but I also want to talk to throughout the session as many different state legislators as I possibly can. Richard comes our way from Mandeville, so, the good side of St. Tammany. And then we'll round things out with District Attorney Hillar Moore. So, plus top stories at trending, the outside in, this day in history. My guess is we'll probably do a couple of Star Wars polls on the YouTube. Yes. And a whole lot more coming your way throughout the show today. I do want to start off with a story that is, not one of the ones we have on the rundown to speak with any of our attorneys about, but one that is going on in a courtroom right now. Do I have enough time? I do. Yesterday, it looks like more witnesses took the stand. Second day of testimonies in the trial for the city of St. George. The article, as posted up by Bess Casserly from WBRC, says during the second day of the St. George trial, half a dozen additional witnesses took the stand. Most testimonies were from government employees, except for businessman and multimillionaire John Inquist. He of H&E Construction shared his opinion as the man in charge of one of the last remaining big businesses rooted in Baton Rouge. He said he's been fighting the company's board for years to move out of Baton Rouge and fears incorporating St. George would be bad for business, amplifying the city's crime, traffic, and litter problems, though he did not specify why or how. That's going to be a running theme as well. Others who took the stand included City Parish civil engineer, who was asked why St. George could not enter an intergovernment agreement for sewer trash and debris removal like Zachary and Baker have. The City Parish Registrar of Voters and the State Commissioner of Elections also testified about the petition and voting process that led to the annexation. Testimonies are set to continue today. So I'm purposefully holding off on this to talk to anybody involved until after it's over with. I don't think that we'll get anywhere in a discussion because, well, as we've talked about on this show, one man's opinion on this from somebody who lives within the city limits. I don't want that to sway what's going on. How's the phrase go? We don't want it tried in the court of public opinion. Well, we've already had a petition and a vote, so public opinion is already pretty much set as to where that should be. Anywho, we'll dive more into the St. George stuff as St. George becomes a city. Once this is out of the courtrooms and we see where it's at as far as actually becoming a city or becoming or getting shut down is concerned. That's all coming your way throughout the show today. We're going to take a quick break in just a minute. Going to come back, talk sports. LSU baseball handled business last night. Got a few other notes and nuggets to cover. Before we take that break, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. I do enjoy telling you about the folks at Complete Collision Center because I love partnering up with them because I've been a customer before. And I can tell you firsthand that the experience is, you would think, oh, hey, it's a body repair shop. It's a car repair shop. How great can the experience be? It's actually very reassuring to walk in there knowing you just got into an accident and knowing you're going to get back on the road safely. Doug walked me personally around my vehicle as I showed him where the damage was, told him what I thought was going on, left my keys with him. He hits me back with a couple pictures later that same day saying, this is what you saw, this is what you didn't see. It's about finding hidden damage because within that hidden damage is where you're going to find your vehicle manufacturer's built-in crumple zones, safety redundancies, and the like. If you just make the car look pretty again and put it back on the road again, you're putting your family at risk, safety-wise. Something that is built to withstand a crash might not be there the next time unless they know what they're doing, like they do over at Complete Collision Center. 2 locations, Plank Road in Zachary and Perkins just east of Bluebonnet. 768-9898 is the phone number, 768-9898. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. What's going on here? My phone is all blacked out now. Kill the mics.
I'm not saying I want the disco, the Star Wars
It
disco.
will be
song.
done, my lord.
It was bad. No. Also, the
There's nothing wrong with wanting to spend time with your friends at a music festival after being abused by your husband, right?
618 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Sports time here on Mornings with Brian Haldane, and we are diving right in. Actually, you know what? I was going to get to the Honey Badger stuff because we have some audio, but I got to start with last night's baseball game. Unbelievable last night. Was it Barry's home run? I'm sorry, I'm doing two things at once. Barry's home run last night, fantastic, and then Pearson, I want to say, hit 2 home runs. LSU baseball, they topped Nichols 10-6 last night. Watching this team evolve throughout the season has been nothing short of entertaining, because it's been, you went in knowing that the bats were going to be awesome. Pitching was going to be a question. Defense proved to be a bigger question than anybody could have imagined. But as it's evolved throughout the season, what we've been watching unfold has been the coming together of a team to hopefully peak at the right time. Last night was no different. Like I said, Pearson had 2 home runs. Barry had a home run. Pearson had 5 RBI. Barry had 2 RBI. McManus had a double with an RBI. It just, overall, throughout the whole game, they got into an early lead, maintained that lead throughout, and just, they're a fun team to watch at this point. LSU baseball not quite done just yet. Got to hit the road, going to Alabama this weekend. We are getting to that time on the calendar where, we're going to have host Southeastern midweek next week, then host Ole Miss next week, then Vandy, and I believe that rounds out the rest of the regular season before heading to Hoover for the SEC tournament. And then it's regional time, and so on. All right, let's get you to the Fox Business Report. No.
By the way, I found the disco version. I will be using that for not this coming bump, but the next one. So I'm assuming y'all still have it.
You know, when I started doing radio, there were folks that had strong opinions about attorneys doing radio. Like, that's silly. Why are you doing that? And now I look at who's on the radio today. I'm on the radio. Hillar Moore's on the radio. District Attorney Tony Clayton's on the radio.
Yeah.
I mean, just saying. I don't really know what I'm saying. I'm just saying.
I don't know where you're going with this.
I'm kind of a big deal. Brick killed a guy. Oh, man. Dr. Strange comes out tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Or tomorrow.
I think it comes out Thursday. I'm going to see it Friday.
I'm not sure if it's made for a 6-year-old. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Fisher's down. Fisher's a little goth child. Fisher's into dark. He's 6. Good morning, Tiffany. Good morning, Troy. Good morning, Byron.
Yeah, sorry, y'all. I haven't even gotten on
Galen,
YouTube yet.
Renee.
My apologies.
I care about you.
Got him. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
It's funny. He's got jokes. So I got asked to talk on the Clay Young show about the same thing we're going to talk about, the Supreme Court, the leak, and the precedent piece, and I told him the same thing, which is, man, I don't really feel like I'm the right person to be talking about abortion. I mean, I can talk law about it, but there's so many people that are, I guess, better affected or more affected by it than I. Hey, Eric. What's going on, buddy? Special shout out to Eric. Easy.
So before I even get into YouTube, I got to wish my wife a good morning.
Oh.
What's happening, boo? Oh! So sore. Why do I suck at life? Come on, Haldane. Legally served book coming back in.
I hear positive affirmation is a better way of going. You've got so many things going for you.
There's a what on top of I-10 by the bridge? A wreck on top of I-10 on top of the bridge? Okay, I'll let Brian know. Thank you so much for calling in. Okay. Someone got a flat tire.
What?
Got a flat tire on top of the bridge and it caused a huge wreck on the bridge.
I just saw a picture, so. Yes, it is time for Legally Served. Yes, it is time to welcome in attorney Franz Borghardt, as we do every single week. What's happening, Slim?
How are you guys doing? To the people listening
To the people listening
or
It sounds so
watching
detached.
or watching on YouTube, good morning. Glad you're here.
First
Glad
of all,
I'm here.
I'm glad you're here as well. We got a lot of ground to cover. I do need a note, though, and Jake, if you could run it across to Taylor to make sure he's got it in the next report as well. Shout out to the person who just called in to let us know about the disabled vehicle, flat tire, if you will, on top of the I-10 bridge is causing some pretty major traffic snafus. In fact, Ashley Frugier over at WBRZ tweeted all of 3 minutes ago a picture of it. It's amazing how one flat tire can cause that much
Carnage.
delay. Yeah.
Carnage.
Yeah.
Chaos.
Nothing but brake lights going on right now. So if you're headed into town from the west to the east, you might want to already consider taking the old bridge. Or, just realizing that everybody has traffic issues around the state, and we shouldn't focus on just the one. Got to spread that around. No, it's a whole other.
It's not my area.
No, it's not.
It's not
no,
my
it's
fight.
not. I'm going to get triggered again. We got a lot of ground to cover here. I've got to start off with the Supreme Court, though. We'll get to Jared Ambo's Netflix queue in just a minute. But nothing. All right, fine.
Mr. Ambo is a very good attorney.
Yeah,
I
he
look forward to talking-
just bought his client a good 4 or 5 months.
I look forward to talking about the case.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
A draft opinion suggests the U.S. Supreme Court could be poised to overturn the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade case that legalized abortion nationwide, according to a Politico report. A decision to overrule Roe would lead... we'll get into the rest of this. We all know the story. A draft opinion was leaked.
Right.
That draft opinion says what it says. Now, from there, That's where I want to pick it up, not from a Roe v. Wade take, but from a, I don't believe I've heard of any opinion being leaked before the Supreme Court wants it in my lifetime.
I think that the thing for the listeners and the people watching to understand is, are there drafts that float around? Yes, right? It's a group of people making a decision together, and each side of an issue, they circulate the majority opinion, they circulate the dissents. Sometimes people write their own dissents, sometimes they write their own opinion, either way. So the fact that these things circulate is nothing new. That happens.
Right.
I don't think I've ever heard of a quote-unquote leak.
Right.
Okay? And one of the reasons I think we haven't heard of a leak is we're talking about the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court. Like, that is the confidence that we should have in that court to do their job in a integrity-filled way. That and it's not a star chamber, Brian. It's not that they make decisions in secret. They deliberate, and then they make a decision. And the way the sausage gets made really shouldn't be something that we haggle over. But that all being said,
you ready to be shocked?
okay, go for it.
1,000% agree.
Okay,
We don't have to take part in every word that's part of the deliberative process. In fact, I wish that we weren't involved in the process that got them confirmed.
so that all being said, what happens to the person who leaked it? Well, one, who leaked it?
Right.
Could have been a law clerk, could have been a federal law clerk, could have been a justice. I leave room for the possibility that was leaked by a justice, potentially one that was dissenting, because they wanted a public outcry. That is certainly why you would leak it, right? Why would you leak it and give it to the media? Because you want a public outcry, right?
Right.
We've had historic
you want to
opinion-
see cities burn.
Yeah,
you want to see people attacked and mauled.
Right, as if that would affect some of the possible swing votes, right?
Right.
So, what do I have proof that it was a justice? No. Do I have proof that it was a law clerk? No. But those are the likely culprits, right?
Yeah.
So, what happens to the person or individual who leaked it? If it's a justice, I believe they should be impeached,
Interesting.
booted off the court.
Something else we haven't seen in our lifetime.
Right. If it was a law clerk, they should be fired. They should
Easy.
be disbarred.
Yes.
And by the way, they probably could be criminally prosecuted under some federal law. Okay. It's not a go to jail for the rest of your life. Is it treason? And I don't say that lightly.
Wow.
Is it treason? I could see a federal prosecutor somewhere saying, this is kind of how I feel about people dumping tea in the middle of the water. Wow. Treason.
Okay, so I didn't see that word coming out at all.
Well,
and yet here we are, because as soon as you say it, it makes sense.
Treason doesn't have to be storming the Capitol. Treason could be doing something like this that might incite riot. This could incite people getting harmed.
Absolutely, and I would almost guarantee that it will. When you look at the amount of passion and emotion that is involved with this decision, and the amount of passion and emotion involved in trying to overturn this decision for 50 years,
right?
Hey, we're going to pause. We'll pick back up on the back end. Right now, it's time for news. We'll start with CBS, then we'll get to our local news, traffic, and weather right here on Talk 107.3.
So I'm day 6. Today is day 7 of no cigars.
And I think I'm not alone when I ask why.
Fisher made a comment. My son, who's 6, made a comment saying, "Daddy, I want you to stop smoking cigars. They're not good for you." And
they're not bad
just
for you.
Enough. They're just enough guilt to throw me into a spiral. And the other side of it is, it's not the healthiest of things I can do to treat.
Well, if you're inhaling them, sure, it's bad. But
I want to treat my body like I'm in a good, healthy relationship with it. And smoking cigars does not promote that. I know that sounds batshit crazy. That's right, I said batshit crazy. I can say that on the break. So how does one celebrate the 4th of July?
you what?
How does one celebrate the 4th of May? May 4th. The 4th be with you.
There's a lot of different ways you could do it, I would say. I mean, at the end of the
I
day,
know how
it's
people
just-
celebrate the 4th of July.
Yeah,
It's
I was. That's why I was confused when you said that. I mean, pretty much just doing anything Star Wars related, watching movies, listening to music. Maybe practice with a lightsaber.
If you could watch one of the 10, 11, or
Let's-
12 movies.
Let's just.
I don't know. The
let's just
Ewok
knock-
movies were, at the time, the Ewok movies weren't terrible ideas when I was a kid. I'm a little older than you. The Ewok movies that came
There
out
was
after. Oh, there's some Ewok movies.
I just knew
No, I
them in
remember those.
Yeah.
Jedi and then the Christmas special.
There were some Ewok movies.
They also did a droid TV show in the 80s. What was your question going to be?
Which is the movie you'd watch if you can watch one?
Revenge of the Sith. It was around the time I grew up.
All right.
And it was easily the best prequel.
I'm finally in on YouTube. What's happening, everybody? I'm just now getting caught up. And yes, let's start with that question. If you're picking one Star Wars movie, which one is it?
If I want to go for, like, nostalgia for me, because I still did grow up with the original trilogy. I watched it just as much as I did the prequels. Revenge of the Sith is objectively my favorite movie, but the best one is Empire Strikes Back. So I could flip a coin today. Definitely going to be watching something tonight.
Okay.
What about you?
Renee says even if you don't inhale, it can cause mouth cancers.
So, I have Fisher tonight, and so I'm thinking, what is the most Star Wars kid-friendly movie of the movies? He likes New Hope. He likes New Hope. There's
it's
not a lot of violence in New Hope.
It's pretty just a hero's
I
journey.
mean, you can downplay the whole blowing up a Death Star with, thousands, if not millions, of people in there.
Well, Uncle Owen and Aunt Peru turn into a shrimp on the Barbie.
that does happen.
They are legitimate skeletons.
sand people.
Yeah.
So-
It was-
He wasn't into Boba Fett and Mandalorian. I loved
What?
Mandalorian. It's an attention span thing.
that's so weird.
Like Baby
He
Yoda,
looks
he's
so
all-
cool.
Baby Yoda, he's all into that.
Well, yeah, everybody is.
I'm sorry, Brian. It's your show. I apologize for not blessing.
No, it's all good. No, I'll watch all of them with the kids.
You
You
celebrate
can have.
the entire catalog.
I do. Not now. Mandalorian after Baby Yoda. I can't see me getting into that. That would be like Narcos after when they moved over to the Cali cartel. It's like I'm done paying attention to this because you're done with Escobar.
By the way, I'm good all the way up to 7.
Good.
I don't have to leave early. Sometimes I have to leave early.
Just a heads up with this intro that we're about to, the bump that I'm going to use. If you wanna let it run a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised. It's the disco theme. You called for it. You asked. You shall receive.
So I met the tailor the other day, and the tailor goes, "You gained a little weight in your stomach. You gained a little weight back." He's like, "You're not fat. You gained some weight back." And I go, "Okay." And he goes, "Maybe that's a good thing." And I go, "What? Why is gaining weight back a good thing?" And he goes, "Yeah, you were looking kind of sickly there for a minute."
You were telling me this the other day.
I was like, pick a side, buddy. like either I'm sickly looking, or I'm fat.
Where's the middle ground?
Tire on the stomach, man. Tire on the stomach.
I'm just saying, like,
Go fit.
I went to, I go to the gym. I go to the gym regularly, 3-4 times a week at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Out, you can only do so much cardio.
I do mostly
But-
running.
Yeah.
And walking.
Lift, dude. Lift.
I know. I just need to find a gym that's willing to.
Yeah, I'm over. The one I was chasing, I'm done chasing those assholes.
So I live near a place on Acadian. I live near a place on Acadian that does CrossFit, and I've been thinking about. Wouldn't be a bad. Well, my thought is with gyms, you got to be near it, or else you're not going to get right.
Correct, which is why I'm about to leave Planet Fatness, because they're going to move.
Planet Fatness.
Dude, they serve pizza on the first Monday of every month.
Well, I live near.
That would be like my dentist giving me a tin of Copenhagen every time I went.
live near a YMCA, and the YMCA would do it. I mean, that would get it done, right?
So that YMCA government at Foster right there?
Yeah.
The
I used to be on their board.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's we were there for basketball all the time. I tell you, whoever it is that runs the gym, the gymnasium gym over there, the basketball gym, Nothing brings me back to my childhood more than hearing Frankie Beverly and Mays pumped in through a basketball gymnasium on a Saturday morning. Any Hoosers. The weight facilities at the YMCA off Old Hammond, and they've all got different names, Manship and all that other good stuff. I don't know their names.
Isn't it not about heavy lifting, but more repetitive lifting? Isn't it more about that? Or is that a big theory?
Yes and no. Oh. So we're done, right? Like, if you're going through the entire catalog of Star Wars music, you've wasted the entire catalog before you get to this. So we're done. Like, that's got to be it, right?
I don't think there was another.
catalog.
How do you get to the bottom of the barrel that quickly?
Bottom of the barrel. That is a classic, dude.
Phantom Menace. What were we talking about again? We're talking about law.
I don't know. Weightlifting,
Law.
Supreme
There's not a lot
Supreme
of-
Court.
Yeah, there's
Supreme
not a lot
Court.
of law in the Star Wars movies.
Well, there's
I will make it legal.
he is the Senate. But we're talking about the Jedi Council. We're talking about the Supreme Court.
Yep.
And we were talking about is this treason? Treason comes in many forms and fashions.
I think leaking, doing something that will elicit, doing something that may affect the decision that is not a part of the appropriate decision making
Yes.
is like rigging an election. It's treason, right? Number two, doing something that could cause people to be hurt, and I'm not. I know what I just said there, and I'm not talking about abortion, whether we're in favor of it or against it or whatever. Doing something about the decision-making process that could cause protesting, riots, and people to get hurt, that's a problem too. Now, arguably, the way this decision comes down, there would be rioting and protesting.
Absolutely. No
That's
matter
gonna
how
happen.
it plays out,
Yeah,
there will
so-
be rioting.
So the bigger issue is leaking the information in such a way so as to affect the outcome. That
Yes.
is the treason. In my mind, that is the federal crime that could lead to someone being prosecuted.
But you brought up a really good point heading into the break about how we don't need public opinion when it comes to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And I know that sounds counterintuitive to living in a democracy, although we are a representative republic. But I firmly believe that we're at a space and time right now where there is so much public opinion that it is affecting the way things are handled on the front end.
Right.
If Supreme Court nominees, during their hearings, during their confirmation hearings, if those weren't public, do you think the nature of the questions and answers would be different than it is today? Do you think we would have better justices, better questions being asked of justices on their way to reaching the bench? Or well, go ahead.
So the problem with the confirmation process is it's become a giant poop show.
Yes,
Where they're
because there's
asking-
cameras.
Yeah, because they're the elected officials are asking questions for sound bites.
Yes.
It is not about the legitimate qualifications of the individual, because candidly, and look, let's just be intellectually honest with everybody. The individuals normally nominated to be a Supreme Court justice are on paper qualified to be a Supreme Court justice. They're not calling up Franz Borghardt, who went to the Paula Mayberry LSU Law Center, and saying, "Hey, you do all this great media and you're a fantastic criminal defense attorney. Hey, you want to come be a justice?" Nobody's ever going to call me up and do that. These are like Ivy Leagues. These are people that have worked. You're rolling your eyes. I mean,
Well, because you just inadvertently admitted that Dominican is better than Catholic.
okay. So, point being, these individuals that are select, I'm just rolling right along. The individuals that are nominated are on, from a legal standpoint, are qualified. Now, should we vet them? Sure.
Yes.
They are vetted.
Yes.
They're vetted by the FBI. They're vetted by, the entire process is a poop show. And this is, by the way, now, let me look into my crystal ball and tell you what's going to happen. There'll be a congressional hearing on this.
There's going to be FBI
Yeah,
investigation.
there'll be an FBI investigation. There'll be a congressional hearing, and then there'll be a conversation about we need more justices so we can stack the court. That's
Which is
coming.
another reason for
Yeah.
it to lead back to the idea that it was one of the dissenters that leaked it.
I think Justice Roberts, his response to this was dead on. This is not okay. It is not okay to leak a draft opinion out to the media so it can essentially affect the decision.
Right.
Because there's no other reason. I mean, the more I think about it, why else would you leak it?
I'm more in the camp of it would be somebody who's a low rung on the totem pole looking for clout, looking for those who are in the know don't talk, and those who talk aren't normally in the know. This is somebody who's looking to be in the know or looking to appear like they've got the greatest scoop of all time.
By the way, justices of the Supreme Court are not swayed or are affected by political opinion.
Yet.
They're life judges. Mm-hmm. So, it's not like they have to run for re-election. They're appointed for life. Now, again, that's another conversation of, is that what we want? I mean, that's what the Constitution seems to say. If we want to change the Constitution, well, we can do all sorts of crazy stuff to the Constitution. We can have a constitutional convention. My point is, they're not supposed to be swayed by political effect, by political happenings. I am, and again, if I sound like I'm legitimately shocked by this, I am legitimately shocked that this happened. As someone who does a lot of federal work, this kind of stuff doesn't happen.
Right.
I do federal work at a district level, at a low level federal work. I can't imagine this happening at a federal district court level, let alone the Supreme Court level.
It really lessens the Supreme Court.
It
to me.
doesn't feel as shiny and special, does it?
No, it does not. And that's a sad day.
Well, that's the problem, though, right? That is the problem is we as a country have to be able to look at what they do as a decision-making body and make their decision, and we have to accept it. Law requires that we accept it. We have to accept it. We don't have to like it. Mm-hmm. We don't have to like it. We don't have to agree with it, but we have to accept it. And what we're seeing is erosion, right? It's harder to accept the process when you see the process just being willy-nilly and you know.
You wanted to talk about precedent as well, which we're going to get to in a minute, but there's one more that I wanted to cover on this, and that is the fact that this is not the final word. This is a draft along the way.
Right.
The likelihood that this is why it's such a tough question to ask, because we don't have examples. We don't have comps in the past to say, when other drafts have been passed around, how do we know what the final word is going to be? Is this just part of the deliberative process? But we're not inside that Jedi Council on a regular basis, so we don't know the deliberative process.
So here's the pickle. Could the opinion have changed had it not been leaked? Absolutely.
Right.
If the opinion changes now, can you say that it didn't change because of the leak?
No! That's the infuriating part.
Right.
How do you not?
Right.
How are we not all up in arms about this because of that? Because everybody went right to their take on Roe v. Wade, and nobody went to a bigger argument, which is that right there.
Right. The decision now.
What am I doing agreeing with you this much?
I don't know. Just give it some time. The decision is tainted because of that, right? It's tainted because, and maybe that's what the leaker wanted, is that they knew that the decision was coming down and they wanted it to be tainted in some way, and the way you taint it is to do this.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is you can't distinguish now. You know, would there have been a justice that changed their minds? I don't know. Have there been justices that changed their minds in the decision-making process? Yeah, we know that. We know that they sometimes change their minds. Mm-hmm. We change. I mean, we're human beings. We change our minds.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to wear pink. Sometimes I want to wear blue. I change my mind. It happens all the time. I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I don't know. It started on a good path, and then we diverted.
Point being is, guys. Point being is that now we have a very serious issue that is being underscored by the decision itself, which is going to cause a lot of issues. But I see someone federally prosecuted for this.
Same here. And you know what though? But I'll rephrase that and say I hope someone is federally prosecuted for this.
I don't see how you avoid it.
And changing an opinion means listening to reason, hearing other arguments. We view that as a weakness in this country.
Well, we're thin-skinned. But to me, leaking that document is tantamount to me putting on a costume with paint on my face and a buffalo headdress and storming the Capitol. That is, to me, the same thing.
We got to break it here. Let's talk precedent when we come back. Maybe we'll get to the Dennis Perkins trial as well. Right now, quick break, then Your Money Now on Talk 107.3.
Galen says John Roberts is swayed by opinion.
That's a good thing.
There's an argument about that.
I don't need to be educated by anything. I don't need new facts to introduce anything into the equation. I know what my political party tells me, and those are my marching orders, and that's all I will ever listen to. That's where we're at in this country right now, and being deliberative is a good thing.
Good morning, Dave Baxter. Byron writes, under what law would they be prosecuted? If they are a lawyer, sounds like more ethical violation than a crime. Well, Byron, it's both. It could be a judicial canon violation, it could be an ethical violation, and it could be a federal law like treason. Or they could be held in contempt of court, which is not prosecution, but still there will be consequences. Dire.
But so Galen says John Roberts is swayed by opinion. I have a feeling that's a compliment for him. Dave says I'll take you for a workout, gents. I don't know what that means.
Feels creepy in all the right ways.
I think it's the gents.
Yeah.
Saying, hey guys, I'll take you out and go work out. Dave's a big dude. Dave's
I don't
cut.
know Dave.
If we were going to a show, it would be a gun show.
Free admission or is
So-
there a price?
I've been all about the squats lately. Squats and leg press. I am just got that last little bit in the gut, and then I'm set. Oh, dude. What do I have? Hey, kill the mics for a second. That's Dave Baxter. I recognize him. All right.
You should be a real man, wear pink. Gordy's doing it.
I had to see the picture to match the face with the picture.
We had a meeting about it. Your name came up.
Yeah?
Dave, don't you think that Brian should be a real man that wears pink to support the fight against breast cancer?
I don't own enough pink.
We can change that,
I'm not buying pink.
I guess.
I'll wear the same shirt every day for a month.
I guess, we don't have to eradicate breast cancer.
Yeah, I guess I didn't give 6 years of my life on the Susan G. Komen board. Wasn't voted co-man of the year.
What have you done lately?
Uh-huh.
See, I put my little Facebook story there. Look at that.
Look at that.
Look at that. I'm sorry you got confronted. That's kind of weird. It's weird. And
It's the nature of the business.
Over
the
a
smuggler's
over
blues.
a case that's a good thing to cover for the firm.
Well, it turned out good that he said something, but
Yeah.
we'll get there. Legally served with attorney Franz Borghardt, rolling right along as part of Mornings with Brian Haldane. We've been talking about the draft opinion being leaked from the Supreme Court, and it is just an opinion, and we don't know where in the deliberative process this is or how it will affect the deliberative process. But as with anything, when you have outside interference, and now we as the public are that outside interference, our reaction, how we handle ourselves in the days to come, can potentially affect a Supreme Court decision. That's a bad place to be.
Yep.
But we were going to talk about precedent as well. You wanted to talk about precedent.
So the bedrock of our court is that they make decisions, and we can rely on those decisions so that we make decisions.
Yes.
Or when we make decisions, we apply. This is what the Supreme Court previously did, so we know that that's what the law is. Until they do stuff like deviate from their former precedent, which, by the way, it happens.
Yes.
I cannot sit here and say that it doesn't happen. And remember, our law changes too. In our country, at some points, we thought that black kids shouldn't be able to get an education.
Beat me to the punch. Dude.
Right.
You beat me to the punch.
Right. And now we're like, yeah, no, that's wrong. They should be able to get an equal education.
Yeah.
So is it such that in our history, precedent has been changed? In fact, a great example is judicial review, is that this court had decided a long time ago that we get the right to decide other people's decisions, right? It's the appellate system.
Yes.
So it's a weird balance, right? It's like, on the one hand, we want decision makers to make decisions that we can go to sleep at night and know that this is what the law is and it's probably not going to change. But the fact is, we know that law changes. We know that culture and climate changes. We know that we as a human race are living in a world such that we evolve in our thought about certain things.
Yes.
Okay? So that being said, is this a monumental case in the sense that it's going to affect a whole bunch of people? Yes, absolutely. We're not going into the abortion, whether or not, we're not going into that. Is it going to affect the way in which we rely on law? Well, in so much as they made a decision, or they're making a decision.
Mm-hmm.
We have the leaked version.
Right.
The leaked version. We don't have the final. But ultimately, yeah, we're going to be able to rely on that law until such time that something else comes along. And that's just the best we can do as human beings.
So when it comes to precedent, though,
Yeah.
do you just throw out precedent?
Well, it's precedent until it's not I'm not trying to be Pilate here. What is truth? But what happens is essentially is it's precedent, and they keep it precedent until they say we're changing our minds, or we're distinguishing. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll say, the Supreme Court will say, we're not changing our former decision, but this is an exception, or this is different. Sometimes it's an application of, we made this decision over here, and this is a tough issue, and this is how we're coming in, or this is a tough set of facts, and this is how we're coming down on it. It's very interesting legal stuff. Legal stuff.
That's what we do here. We do stuff.
That's right.
And things.
Boom.
Speaking of which, got about 3.5 minutes left.
Okay.
Got to touch on this. Terrible phrasing.
Your words.
Dennis Perkins appeared in court Tuesday, and his lawyer successfully pushed the hearing from the beginning of May to the beginning of October. Jarrett Ambo filed a request to have the trial delayed, alleging that prosecutors with the Louisiana Attorney General's office are withholding evidence they plan to use in the case. Ambo said there are more than 317 videos and 2,600 pictures that prosecutors have in their possession. He said it wasn't until this past Friday he got just 67 of those videos were delivered to him, almost 2.5 years after Perkins was first arrested. This is, of course, the big sex crime case out of Livingston Parish.
Popcorn.
How?
So here's the thing.
317 videos, he needs to go through all of them?
So you don't know what you don't know. If you don't look at the evidence, you don't know what's in there, and he has a constitutional obligation to defend his client and to look for any exculpatory evidence in there. And you don't know what you don't know. So is it possible that there's nothing in those videos and it's just gross, sick videos that nobody would want to watch? Mm-hmm. Sure. But he has to watch them. That's his ethical and constitutional obligation to his client. And by the way, to some degree, you want him to watch those because you want – look, if you're going to prosecute someone, if you're going to convict someone, you want it to be a clean kill. You want it to be something that nobody can say, you messed up on this or you didn't do that. You want the conviction to stick. So I understand that some people say, well, you're just delaying the inevitable, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot of watching the movies.
It is a lot. That's a lot in the Netflix queue. You are not getting to the next season of Better Call Saul anytime soon.
Wow.
Among the evidence is a video of Perkins allegedly lacing treats with his and then serving them to school children. Ambrose says the pastries seen in that video are not the ones that are fed to the children.
It's a defense. It's a defense.
These are not the cupcakes you're looking for. May the 4th. Come on!
Look. As someone who has represented clients that were not beloved by society before, I will say his obligation, I'll say it a third time, regardless about how you feel about you hate the player, not the game.
Yeah,
right?
but
his obligation is to make sure his client gets a constitutionally sound, due process oriented shake. And that is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, let's be honest. If the AG's office had all these videos, all these graphic videos, and they're only dwindling down to 60-something of them, and then they're only giving it to him, assuming what he's alleging is accurate.
Right.
He is justified in saying, well, why aren't you using all these other ones? What's on these other ones?
What does it matter? If he's in any of these...
You don't know what you don't know.
Doing what he's doing to a batch of cupcakes and serving them to kids.
So, again, I come back...
And Jared Ambrose says he pulled the switcheroo.
Again, you don't know what you don't know. And by that phrase, I mean, if you don't look at the evidence, you don't know what's in the evidence. And he has an obligation... And we as a society, by the way, want him to look at the evidence, right?
No, yeah, but what I'm saying is the other videos don't matter. If he is in any of the videos, the rest of them don't matter. There's video on my phone of track meets or birthday parties or whatever. There's video out there that doesn't have Dennis Perkins in it. Other video doesn't take away from the
you
video
don't bake,
that...
do you?
Do what?
You don't bake, do you?
No. No. But if he's in any of them, that's all that matters, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
You don't know unless you watch them.
We got to continue on YouTube. We got to break for news on the air. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along next. Appreciate you, Franz.
All right.
But they give Jared Ambrose 67 videos of Dennis Perkins cranking into a batch of cupcakes.
Did you say cranking?
Yeah, I did. What does it matter what's in the other 200 plus videos?
I don't know because I haven't. If I'm defending Perkins, I have to look at the
But
videos.
you can't undo what's in the 67 that he got.
Again, we're in a vacuum here talking about something just blinked.
Hotline.
You just don't know. Is Clayton coming in? Or are they calling?
Oh, he's calling in.
All right. I will probably have to call in next week
That's fine.
from Boulder.
That's fine.
All right. I'll see you guys. Have a good one.
Later, bro. I wanted more time with that one. Because but the Supreme Court thing was monumental, and we needed to discuss it at the length we did. But okay, let's change the conversation or change the nature of the crime. All right? If Dennis Perkins were accused of robbing a bank, and there were 67 videos of him robbing a bank, and what would be how many did he say there were total? 317. So if there's 67 videos of Dennis Perkins robbing a bank and 250 of him not robbing a bank, I don't understand why you need those 250 videos. You've got your evidence. You've got what's there. So, I mean, unless any of those other videos can show him in a different time and place. But if you've got video evidence of him committing the crime, I don't know why you would need video evidence that it has nothing to do with anything. Unrelated crap. By the way, if Dave Baxter is still watching, yeah, I'll do it. Of course I will. Damn. I don't know. Tony Clayton will be on the hotline. And then Garret might be here. I don't know. He's in town. Well, Galen, you are convinced that you know who did this. I don't have that level of, I'm not that sure. There are a number of possibilities when it comes to this as to who could have leaked this thing. I honestly think it's somebody just looking for clout. That's the simplest answer. There's no mastermind villain behind the thing. There's no Illuminati here. It's someone who's looking for clout, which would make your book tour that much that much more of a valid take or a plausible take. But the political motivation behind this can come from either side. What would a conservative gain? Cover. A conservative would gain cover. What would a conservative gain? If you flesh this out and you find that, I got to go to the bank. Shit. Okay. If you flesh this out and you find that public opinion is more on the pro-life side than you would have thought ahead of time, you have that much more cover to change the law or override the decision. Conversely, it's cover in the sense that if you find out that there will be, or you see that there will be riots and everything else, you could say, I can't in good conscience cause more harm than good by overturning this law. .706 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Got a busy hour this hour. District Attorney Tony Clayton is going to be on the hotline in our next segment. Well, he's been on a push right now. There's a problem on the other side of the river, and quite honestly, that problem's on this side of the river as well. And that is that problem is the age of violent criminals is dropping. Juveniles are committing more and more violent crimes. And Tony Clayton is looking to put a stop to it, or at least help along the way by trying some juveniles as adults. When you hear that as a topic, instantly the hyperbole, the rhetoric goes to, well, you want to throw 12-year-olds in jail for stealing a pack of gum at the Circle K? No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. But the 15 or 16-year-old holding the automatic weapon in the rap video, and then that same weapon shows up as connected to a crime? Maybe we'll talk. Going to talk to him in our next segment about exactly that. Also, Congressman Garret Gray is going to be by for D.C. Current as well. A lot on the congressman's plate right now. Been making the tour locally. Been popping up at a number of businesses. His social media feed has been full of that hands-on work that our elected officials do when they're not at the U.S. Capitol. But there's a number of tech bills the governor, wow, did I say that? That the congressman's been working on. There's risk rating 2.0 we need to talk about, and he just got back from Europe as well. We'll touch on that as well. All that coming your way this hour. Right now, though, we do start. Oh, got to remind you one more time about the YouTube channel, Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Go check it out. There is a ton of conversation being had this morning. It has been nothing short of phenomenal, the conversation. The comments coming in about the Supreme Court it was our topic of discussion in the last hour. The feedback, the interaction, it's a heck of a lot of fun. Check it out, Mornings with Brian Haldane on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe while you're there so you can be in on that conversation on a regular basis. All right, every day we start off the second hour with top stories and trending. Let's get it. House Bill 837, a bill that would restrict discussion of sexuality and gender identity in public schools, died in committee yesterday afternoon. The bill, primarily authored by Republican Representative Dodie Horton, would prohibit teachers and employees in public schools from discussing sexual orientation and gender identity as a part of the curriculum with kindergartners through 8th graders. It also prohibits public school employees and teachers from discussing their personal gender identity and sexual orientation with all students K through 12. The vote comes less than a week after, well, we all know the discussion that came out of Florida, so that bill shot down. Yesterday, the Baton Rouge Police Department deputy chiefs responded to a scathing statement from the International Union of Police Associations criticizing the department for its handling of crime in the area. We broke down the International Police Union's statement yesterday a little bit. In their statement, the deputy chiefs acknowledged the problems that were laid out by the union, addressed them concern by concern, noting the efforts to beef up staffing, taking special effort to lead with Operation Red Stick to address the violence in town, and highlight communication and discipline efforts as well. Interestingly enough, though, when you read the letter from the deputy chiefs, and I've got a copy of it, so we'll probably hit on that before we get out of the show today, probably the last segment because we're stacked up. But if you read the letter from the deputy chiefs, they failed to tout the small but notable raises that the chief has been able to secure for his officers in the last year or so. Officers responded to North 39th Street, after multiple people were shot Tuesday afternoon. According to the Baton Rouge Police Department, the shooting happened in the 2100 block of North 39th shortly before 6 p.m. Sources said 5 people suffered non-life-threatening injuries. No more information about this was made immediately available. Might use the B word in this, so if there's kids in the car, earmuffs. A woman had no idea she was on speakerphone when she called her former dating partner to brag about stealing a car, allowing sheriff's deputies to hear the whole confession. 38-year-old Ashley Charles was arrested Monday for allegedly sneaking into her ex's home off Hoosiatu Road and taking the BMW right out of the garage, violating a protective order in the process. According to arrest records, the victim only realized what happened after Charles called early one morning saying she took the vehicle. The victim checked the garage to find the bay door wide open and the vehicle gone. Later that day, while EBR sheriff's deputies were speaking with the victim, she got another call from Charles and put her on speakerphone. The person on the line started ranting, saying, quote, "Bitch, I got your car. Good luck finding it." The deputy went on to say Charles also admitted she lied to court officials about not having a key to the victim's car during that same car. By the way, the car was later recovered. A man was found shot to death Tuesday night at a building behind Reggie's in Tigerland around 9 p.m. BRPD said they are unsure where the shooting took place. Important to note, the apartment building not too far behind Reggie's has been the location of, well, numerous crimes over the last few years, and a topic of discussion with District Attorney Hillar Moore as well. So if that's the building that's back in the news, if that were the scene of the crime, there will be more to discuss. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Louisiana's House of Representatives voted Monday to officially remove Robert E. Lee Day and the Confederate Memorial Day from a list of state holidays. The bill by Representative Matthew Willard, a New Orleans Democrat, goes next to the state Senate. Neither Confederate Memorial Day nor the day honoring the Confederate general have been observed in Louisiana for years. They are among a list of holidays a governor can proclaim in addition to other permanent holidays that include Christmas and Independence Day. That list also includes Washington's birthday, National Memorial Day, and Huey P. Long Day, which honors the populist Louisiana politician who was assassinated back in 1935 inside the state capitol. Willard's bill has drawn little opposition. His bill removing the holidays from state law had passed the House Judiciary Committee 12-0 last month. It passed in the House by a vote of 62-20, with 23 members absent or not voting. It just makes me want to get a look at the full list. I would love to know what holidays we're not celebrating. Those are your top stories in trending. We're due up for a break. When we come back, District Attorney Tony Clayton joins us next. Yes. Say again? Behind big
Posted the question to Brian. I didn't have the mic on, but
why is Florida the Sunshine State?
we all get sun.
Exactly.
So I asked Brian, why of all states is Louisiana known as sportsman's paradise?
Because there's just that much more room for us to for sportsmen. Oh, don't ask Tony Clayton that. Jesus. Debbie, I will ask him that. Byron says, interesting that a multiple people shot in Baton Rouge story isn't discussed until an hour and 12 minutes into the show. Not a slight, but a commentary on how common these stories have become here. So, where's the discussion in that? I get where you're at, but it's not a talking point. Like, there's no discussion to be had from shootings, from crime. That's why I funnel all of that into the top stories and trending segment. It is a little behind the scenes. That is the time of day that is most listened to. Most people are either done getting ready and out the door and listening in their cars, or on their way to work, or whatever, on their way to school. So when it comes to what's my lead, there's fewer people listening and watching at 6:05 than there are at 7:05. And yeah, we could have the exact same discussion every day about crime in Baton Rouge. So, but your point's not missed by any stretch. What? Yes, go ahead and play it anyway. Yeah, we weren't supposed to play another NFC team. .717 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Yes, we are embracing May the 4th be with you. going back to the hotline, as District Attorney Tony Clayton has been on an absolute mission of late in order to bring more attention to, if not justice, bring more attention to the problem of younger and younger people are committing violent crimes. He joins us now. District Attorney Tony Clayton, welcome aboard. How are you, sir?
Fine. How are you, man?
I'm doing very well. I appreciate you hopping on board this morning. So 1 week ago today, you were at the Rotary Club, and side note, brought down the house. Amazing presentation. But you brought up the topic of your talk was one that I think we all need to be hearing, embracing, and doing something about. So let's just set the table. Where are we when it comes to your fight to lower the age that you can prosecute as an adult?
Well, let me just cut right to the chase.
Yeah.
There's a systemic problem going on when the legislature several years ago lowered the age to where 17-year-olds were to be put in juvenile facilities. Mm-hmm. A 17-year-old, in my opinion, should not be put in the same facility as a 14-year-old. If you were to look at the stats from the past year, you would see that an overwhelming majority or a staggering number of homicides are committed by juveniles. And that's just a fact. And the issue is the municipalities and the parishes are having to pay astounding bills, upwards of at least $600 to have these juveniles housed in other states. For example, Dothan, Alabama is now one of the only places taking a juvenile if he were to commit a violent crime in my parish. Dothan charges from $400 to $600 a day. So my parish, for example, I have 3, Pontchartrain, Iberville, and West Baton Rouge.
Yes.
I have several juveniles that are being held for murder charges in Dothan, Alabama. My bills are ranging from $60,000 to $70,000 per month. That's just ridiculous. It's a amount of money that the taxpayers ought to not have to be faced with. And I bring it to a close with this: if that 17-year-old were held in an adult facility, the bill would only be $26 a day. And here's the sticking point there. If that 17-year-old were held in an adult facility, under federal law, he still has to be kept out of sight and sound. So he's kept isolated until he becomes an adult. So you're not putting him in the tiger's den, so to speak. So the bottom line is, it makes no sense economically for us to have these 17-year-olds who are committing violent crimes. I'm talking about the ones who are committing murder, rape, and attempt murders. Then they ought to be treated like adults, period. The taxpayers are sick and tired of being sick and tired of every time you pick up the newspaper, some teenagers running around shooting folks. I mean, it is what it is. We have to do something about it.
Those numbers you just laid out make, if I'm doing my math right, we're talking about $750,000 over the course of a year per offender.
Those are the numbers. And
yeah.
So Baton Rouge has a detention facility for juveniles. Most of the parishes don't. So there's no place in Louisiana that will take these folks. For example, Lafayette has one, but they're filled to capacity. Baton Rouge is often filled to capacity. And so you would have to go to Natchez, Mississippi, or Dothan, Alabama. That's just unconscionable to think that if a juvenile, for example, were to commit a homicide in New York, who the hell, excuse my French, under what theory should a New Yorker send his kid down here for us to hold him? So why are we sending our juveniles over to Alabama to pay this exorbitant amount of money? Louisiana should fix this problem. The legislature should address it head on. And so we have a problem with our juveniles. Just last night, someone was shot and killed by Tiger Town. Several weeks ago, juveniles drug an arm off, killed her in New Orleans. I mean, I can go on and on and on with the problem with these young juveniles and these homicides and attempting to kill people. Something has to be done.
The story out of New Orleans with the carjacking and the woman's arm being severed before she was killed, that probably going to be the most heinous one, or gosh, I hope nothing gets more heinous than that. But it's an example of a problem that continues to grow. Numbers-wise, are we seeing more of this, and is it quantifiable as to how much more we're seeing?
Yes, and there was a statistician, lack of a better way of calling him, who testified at the legislature, and he used it. Any statistician can cook the numbers. He said of the 100 murders that happened nationally less than 5% are committed by juveniles. Well, I beg to question that, because I can cite you 5 murders in the last 3 weeks that were committed by juveniles. So that those numbers, when they start throwing those numbers out there, they don't make sense. And you can just go to New Orleans, you can go downtown Baton Rouge in general, or you can go to any urban area in the state: Monroe, Shreveport, Alexandria, Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. So look at the numbers. Look, I'm not trying to arouse your listeners. I'm only saying that it's time for us to hold folks accountable and say that we have a juvenile problem here and that we have to fix it. Now, I'm not trying to take us back to saying we lock up everyone at 17. DAs have to have some type of accountability and responsibility. I have a 17-year-old kid who's smoking a joint. He's about to graduate from high school. I'm not going to put that kid in the system. I'm going to put him in some pretrial diversion program, let him take his little butt on to college and become a successful citizen. Mm-hmm. But if I have that same kid who anoints himself God, takes a gun, and sucks the life out of somebody's child, then I got something for him. He needs to go to prison. Period. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I don't mean to sound like some vigilante. I don't want to come across as some Dudley Do-Right. I'm only saying that we have to deal with the violent crime.
So when it comes, is there a way to write it in that it's only for the violent crimes?
Yes, and I'm against that, because you leave it up to the district attorneys to leave it up to the violent crime. I mean, there are no DAs that I know of that are going to go and prosecute some 17-year-old kid who goes out and does jaywalking. Who can care less? You don't hear about district attorneys helping folks, but most of the people that come through our court system, we give them second chances. It's the violent guys that you forfeit your right to walk around with the rest of us when you start taking guns and just killing innocent people. Period. Dragging women down the street, pulling their arms off, you forfeit your right to walk around with the rest of us. So you have to leave it up to us as prosecutors to use our common sense. I mean, we're not going to abuse our power or whatever we've been given to us by the Constitution to just willy-nilly go put some 17-year-old kid in prison for some misdemeanor, smoking a joint or driving too fast. But it's the violent ones that matter. So when you say only violent ones, yes, but it's the cost measure. So remember, I have the ability to indict him or to transfer him to adult court. But sometimes that indictment takes about 2 weeks to a month. That's $600 a day. Mm-hmm. Sometimes to transfer him takes a long period of time. I mean, that's hundreds and hundreds. Well, if the legislature were to put in language that says if he's 17 and he commits a murder or he commits a violent act, then he becomes an adult for that purpose, then I can ship his little butt off to adult prison for $26 a day.
How much of this is about pretrial versus post-conviction? Because when you hear about lowering the age or whatever, when you hear these sorts of terms, we always think about the long-term ramifications, but it sounds to me like your focus is more on the short-term efficiency of it.
And you spot on with that. So it's a combination of both, because the cost, the exorbitant cost of dealing with juveniles is that until you can get him under the current system labeled as an adult, you have to have him in a juvenile facility, or you have to have him someplace out of sight and sound, and the costs are just exorbitant. And so until you can have him placed in that adult facility, it's costing the taxpayers a ton of money. Right. Now, if we were to have this general law that says at the time he attains the age of 17 and he commits this violent act, this murder, then he's considered as an adult, then that vitiates any of this protocol of having to find juvenile prosecutors, find a judge, have an emergency hearing within so many days, either have him indicted, try to move to have him transferred. I'll give you an example. Several weeks ago in Plaquemine, a 17-year-old girl called a 14-year-old kid to her home early in the morning for whatever reason, and she knew that this 14-year-old kid was beefing with her cousin. 14-year-old comes to the home at 3 o'clock in the morning. On his way out, he shoots and kills her 17-year-old cousin who's asleep on the couch. Now, what am I doing with this 14-year-old? Well, he's in Dothan, Alabama. He's been there for a long period of time, and I can't get him adjudicated to send him off to the state to get him out of the taxpayers' dollars because some doctor they've hired says that he has some mental issue. Well, you know what? Now I have to the taxpayers have to keep paying and paying until I can get by or deal with this issue that the doctor says he has. Unbeknownst to you guys, this kid was a honor roll student before he was put out of school. But I'm having to deal with a 14-year-old intentionally shooting another kid in the head unjustifiably. So can we stop that? No, and I'm not advocating that we put 14-year-olds in prison with adults. But I'm saying we got to do something about the 17-year-olds.
So, yeah, you're leading me right up to the next question that I had was, is lowering this to 17 enough? District Attorney Tony Clayton's our guest. District Attorney Clayton, you showed a video last week that included numbers of 15 and 16-year-olds. Would this do enough to address the problem, or is this you're just looking at this as a starting point?
It's a starting point, but I don't want to wake up all of these folks, woke folks, quote unquote, saying that Clayton's trying to put kids in prison. I'm not. But you saw that video. That was a real video that was filmed by those young folks. So we have a systemic problem in the entire country, but more specifically right here in Baton Rouge and our local municipalities, local little towns. So you, me, the public, we have to have an emergency meeting of sorts so we can sit down and see how we address this issue of juveniles and this recent crime spree that's going on with them.
Got a couple minutes left with District Attorney Tony Clayton, and I really appreciate your time this morning. There's another aspect of this that you addressed at the Rotary meeting last week that we haven't gotten to yet, and that is grown-ups using kids to, because they can use them and have lesser punishment on the back end, talking specifically about drugs.
And you really were paying attention at that Rotary.
Oh, I was dialed in. You were on point, man.
Well, so that's a good point you bring. For example, the transporting or the distribution of fentanyl, which is dangerous and it's highly prevalent out there, folks. I mean, it's prevalent. I mean, we're having our officers carry what's called Narcan with them, which is a drug that when they find these folks sometime unconscious, they'll hit them with that Narcan to bring them back, because the use of fentanyl is you won't even believe it. Well, we're catching that stuff as they bring it through the interstates. Oftentimes you'll see when the local drug dealers are bringing the stuff in, they're using 16, 17-year-olds, or the maximum amount of time they'll get in prison is 21, 3 to 4 years. So if they're pumping in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of that stuff, and you can only give a 17-year-old 3 to 4 years, then that's the person you're going to use as a conduit to allow this stuff to flow into our communities. So that's happening. So we have to address that issue. So the older guys, for lack of a better way of putting it, are using the younger guys to distribute this stuff throughout our communities.
District Attorney Tony Clayton, I greatly appreciate the time. We're not nearly done with the conversation, but we are out of time for this morning. I got to get you back on real soon. Is this getting rid of raise the age? It makes its way forward in the state legislature. Let's get you on in a couple weeks with a little bit of a recap.
Sounds great. Good talking to you.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed it so much. Good talking to you. Bye.
Likewise. You take care. He's hey, who was it on the YouTube chat says Tony Clayton for governor? Hey, that's going to be a popular sentiment in the very near future. He is no BS when it comes to this. If I could completely unpack what went down with his presentation at Rotary, and look, just Google him. He's been on point, been on message for some time about this. It's a very specific niche that he's looking to fix, but it's a problem that grows not just on his side of the river, but make no bones about it, on our side of the river as well. He mentioned the shooting in Tigerland. I don't have any information from BRPD as to the age of the victim in that one. In fact, I probably should check my email, but it is a growing concern, a growing problem. We're seeing it more and more often. So I don't know if his answer is the right answer to address it, if only because his answer isn't big enough to address all of it. But like he just said, he's not trying to put 14-year-olds in jail with grown-ups. That being said, though, if it's a 14-year-old committing the crime, and that crime takes another life, what are we doing there? All right, we're super duper late. We missed CBS News. Worth it to have Tony Clayton on, though. And we will get him on again in the very, very near future. In the meanwhile, here's our local news, traffic and weather. Congressman Garret Graves coming your way next. All right, so Byron, I know you're not complaining. The top stories in trending, everything being funneled into there is about the best way that you wouldn't believe that's one of the top 3 questions I get about the show is, why don't you talk about the shootings more often? I'm like, because I don't want to do the same show every day. There's a lot more going on that affects a lot more of us. And even with the homicide rate being where it's at, and it's down from last year, but even last year was a record. But even with the homicide rate being where it's at, there's still the whole wealth of our lives that go on. So, but by pushing it all into one segment that is at the most listened to time of the day, that's just the way I'm going to handle it. So I know you weren't complaining. It's something that I get a lot, so I felt like unpacking it. Yeah, I get that question almost as much as I get, is Franz really like that? No, I'm kidding. Mr. 45 Glock owner says, if a person commits murder, carjacking, shootings, armed robbery, rape, and home invasion, that person needs to go to the penitentiary regardless of that person's age, period. Yeah, no, so I'm guessing you would take it lower than 17. I'm just guessing that your take is, I don't care if they're 15. You know, they say play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Well, play adult games, win adult prizes. Doug says, if these juveniles were handled appropriately before they get to 17, it may not be short a huge problem. I think you mean such a huge problem. The juvenile court system is a joke. Don't take my word for it. Go see it for yourself. Yeah, no, Doug, I completely echo those sentiments. Yeah, we're at a point right now where we continue to treat kids as if they are kids in the 50s, you know? Like, we're all little Opie from the Andy Griffith Show. That's not what they're growing up with. That's not what they're seeing. That's not what their influences are. And that's not what impresses their peers. So getting to the root of that, I think, is a much, much bigger issue. Glock's comment's going to stick with me, though. It's cut and dry, man. You heard that story he talked about? 14-year-old beefing with somebody else, gets called to a girl's house, goes over to her house, has sex with her, then on the way out, shoots that girl's cousin that he was beefing with. Bro, that is cold-blooded. That is thought out. There is no, that's not like, oh, I didn't know what the gun did. Oh, you knew exactly what you were doing. Violence should be the rule. I agree with that, Debbie. Yeah, we can broken windows theory all day long, but once you're there, you're there. And we as a society need to be able to say, well, we failed this person. Yeah, I know. But there's no reason to let that failure continue to end other lives. Morning, Brian. Can you ask the congressman how he feels about the 3-letter bureaus making law without Congress, i.e. ATF making new enforceable federal gun laws? Has the ATF made a enforceable federal gun law? Give me more background, and I will try to get to it during today's segment. I've got a very stacked up segment with the congressman today. Yeah, it's all good. Okay.
More sunshine, heat, and humidity in store today. Temperatures will be in the upper 80s this afternoon with another chance to briefly scratch 90 degrees. Tonight, temperatures will be near 70 degrees. Thursday will start off the same way with temperatures climbing to near 90, and then Thursday night, a line of showers and storms will approach the area from the northwest, and it will be near Baton Rouge before sunrise. These storms could be on the stronger side with potentially damaging winds and heavy rain. There is a level 2 out of 5 slight risk for these storms to become severe. Stay connected with Storm Station as we get closer to Friday morning.
738 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Time for DC Current. Time to welcome in Congressman Garret Graves. Congressman Graves, may the 4th be with you, sir.
Hey, thank you. You too. How you doing, Brian?
Doing well this morning. You doing good?
We are, yes. Great to be home this week. So I've been traveling all around South Louisiana this week, and going to continue doing that for the rest of the week. Feels good to be back in home country for a while.
So I actually wanted to start there. Small Business Week going on all week this week. You've been making the rounds. This is the time where when we talk about Congress, we talk about what happens on the Hill. But really, all that starts with what's going on weeks like this, where you're making the tours, where you're talking to constituents. This is where we learn about the problems that they're seeing firsthand. So what are the problems you're seeing firsthand?
Well, just to emphasize your point, look, I think Congress needs to do more of this and less of Washington. The Washington, D.C. is such an unrealistic place, and you spend too much time there, and I think that people begin thinking that that's real up there, and it's not at all. You've got to be among the people you're representing and being out there talking to small businesses. So, Brian, what we've been doing is just going to all these different small businesses, going to small business restaurants, barbecue joints, going to mechanics, tire shops, going into sporting goods stores, just all these small businesses and learning from them. How is this energy price surge affecting you? How is the worker shortage? How is the supply chain problem? How is inflation affecting you? And it's been great, just really good feedback from folks, understanding the on-the-ground implications of what happens when you do a poor job leading this country, leading the economy. You make bad decisions on energy policy. What type of impacts it has on the ground with real people, families. And so it's just been phenomenal. We were in the Bayou region yesterday, spent time down in the Houma and Thibodaux area. We spent time in Denham Springs, Baton Rouge, going to Ascension soon, and so just trying to really cover the ground and talk to folks about what they're seeing, experiencing, and their ideas.
You lead with barbecue joints. I know where your real agenda is. So is there consensus, or is it pretty varied?
Well, first of all, the worker shortage is one that's universal. Pretty much everywhere we've gone, folks have talked about how big of a deal that is, the worker shortage. In fact, restaurants saying, yeah, we've actually closed, on Mondays and open half a day on Sundays now because we just didn't have the people, and saying that's likely going to be a longer term plan for them because they can't get the workforce that they need. One of the mechanics that we met with was telling me that he's trying to fix a car and he needs this part, and they're telling him he can't get the part till September. He's just like, what do you do? These people need their car.
Yeah.
And just awful. And then, of course, one of the other just universal things that we're hearing from folks is hearing about just how bad the energy prices, the gasoline prices are impacting them. Everything from food deliveries having an energy surcharge, them having to pay more, for their own cars and drivers, and just one of those universal things that's causing the price of everything to go up. It's affecting these individual businesses. And look, so what do you do about this? And they say, well, our only choice is raising prices, which again just contributes or compounds inflation issues, which makes all of us everybody effectively get a decrease in pay because we're paying more for everything. I mean, even going back over to supply chain, one of the grocery stores we went to, showing us their freezer and their shelves, like, hey, I haven't been able to get this, product for, just have a whole section of the freezer empty for a month now. And just really is incredible to think that this is the United States in 2022, and this is what we're experiencing.
It's amazing the randomness with which you mentioned a grocery store and like just empty chunks on shelves. The randomness that is missing from grocery shelves is it's so weird. You'll have just like a particular brand of toothpaste won't be there, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, and them talking about how that's exactly right. You may not be able to get this toothpaste for a month, then all of a sudden it's cotton balls, and you can't get cotton balls. And I mean, it just said it's totally random. And we were in a sporting goods store yesterday at Homa, and they were telling us about how some of their orders coming in for hunting season were orders that they placed for last hunting season, and they were unable to be filled. They're just coming in now. Or how they got a bunch of shotgun shells after hunting season last year that they had placed before hunting season, and just these huge delays and how difficult it is to plan and manage inventory and try and be prepared for what the consumers are looking for.
It's such a different aspect when you talk about something that's seasonal like that. That would be like getting a bunch of Mardi Gras beads on your shelves today. Who the heck needs it now? Anyway,
yeah.
You're working on a number of tech issues as well right now. I would like to explore what's going on there.
Sure. So in the tech space, first of all, I'm going to come back to drones in a minute, but in the tech space, something that we've got to do a better job on, or Congress has got to step in, is some of these issues with social media. We're working on everything from Section 230 of the Telecommunications Act, which is effectively allows companies to step in and selectively censor your post. And look, I've been censored on Facebook. They've tried to tell us that things we said were inaccurate. We showed them all the information. They finally backed off. We've been told that in other cases, they blocked our ads on Facebook, and we had to go back and show them how we were right. I mean, just incredible, the censoring that's happening in America. The other issue we've been spending time on is on privacy, just making sure that your data, your information is yours. You can't have these people serendipitously collect it and then go out there and sell your private personal information, and especially the impact it has on kids, because a lot of this data collection has been indiscriminate. They're collecting information on our young kids and out there selling it. Lastly, and probably where your question was going, is we've been spending a lot of time on drones, on advanced technologies related to drones. So we had a number of bills pass through. One of them would allow drones to be used for inspections on things like bridges and other critical infrastructure, because there's a huge backlog of inspections. And look, you've seen these bridges collapse in connecting Arkansas and Memphis area. You've seen the bridge collapse in Georgia, the bridge collapse in Minnesota. And so getting these drones out there, you can go through and do a full inspection and map them within like an hour or two. And so getting that technology out there to make sure that these roads and bridges are safe, make sure we know where the deficiencies are and we don't run into problems with people or have to shut down an interstate like they did in Arkansas and Tennessee. Number two, we have a bill that begins looking at how you can start incorporating advanced technologies. Like they literally have vehicles today where you can order, just like an Uber. You can say, yeah, I'd like to be flown to Baton Rouge Airport or something like that. And they don't have it in Louisiana yet, but they're doing pilot programs in other areas where you could, just like you order an Uber. And so we've got to be thinking about that. How is that going to work? Where are the vertiports going to be located? And just thinking about how to incorporate some of that into our infrastructure longer term. Hey, I can fly across Mississippi River and not have to park it on the bridge like everybody else.
Which is happening as we speak.
Yeah, it is. It is. That bridge is incredible.
All right. Well, to that, we're finally getting the flying cars. Basically, we're finally moving into the Jetsons age. Is what you're saying,
Brian? It is surreal, but I've actually been there. I've seen the technology, and it's absolutely amazing. But unfortunately, the FAA is really sort of wrapped around the axle, trying to figure out how to regulate and approve these things. Which we need. Safety's got to be paramount, but we also don't need to be an obstacle to some of the newer technologies that are down the road.
Back to the censorship with social media, and I could do an hour on this alone because it's such a delicate balance here. There is censorship, yes, but it's not coming from the government. How do you walk that balance of it's their house, their rules versus it needs to be more, call them the same across the board?
Well, because number one, look, you've got free speech in this country, and that's a constitutional right. It's not something people can take away. Number two, under federal law, you can decide that your platform, your Facebook or whatever else, that you're going to allow for certain comments and not allow for others. But under those conditions, you are potentially liable for discrimination or being selective in some cases where what the law says is it says that if you just let anybody post anything, you can be held harmless. So if Facebook doesn't edit anything, they're not responsible for the content or what people decide to post. But if you do step in and start regulating content, you shouldn't be allowed that same legal protection, because if you're going to come in and censor and squash free speech, there need to be limits on that. And so that's one of the issues that needs to be addressed. You can't allow people to both censor and be held immune from any type of liability. The other issue is this insane idea that the Biden administration has come out with, deciding that they're going to be the arbiter of disinformation. You're going to have a government agency deciding what's fact-checked, accurate, and what isn't. I mean, that is just downright scary. That's George Orwell type stuff, and I can't even believe that somebody said this idea out loud.
We got about a minute left here with Congressman Garret Graves, and I'm glad you brought up the government agency changing the laws that should be going through Congress. Y'all are the lawmakers, after all. I got a listener asking on our YouTube chat about the ATF redefining certain accessories and types of firearms, changing the law to make millions of legal gun owners felons instantly. Looking for your comments on the different government agencies stepping outside of their scope.
Well, the ATF, and we saw this under previous administrations, and we're seeing it again now, where they are trying to come in and encroach on our Second Amendment rights. The folks are out there, some of these people that have never shot a gun, have never gone out hunting, are convinced that it is the guns that are killing people, and not focusing on the criminals, not focusing on holding those people accountable. We're going to continue to fight for Second Amendment rights, and we're going to continue to work to make sure that it's not the law-abiding citizens that you're going out there attacking, but that you're holding accountable the people that are criminals. Brian, we've got to keep in mind, if you just come in and say, oh, well, now this is illegal, the people that are out there murdering and causing all these crimes, they're already breaking the law. It doesn't matter if you come in and you tell them, oh, this type of gun's illegal. You think that matters? They're killing people. And we're never going to solve the violent crime problems if we keep approaching things this way and actually putting restrictions on the law-abiding folks versus holding the criminals accountable.
He is Congressman Garret Graves. We meet every week at this time for D.C. Current. Congressman, I'll be in attendance at lunch today, so looking forward to it.
Oh, good. Yeah, we'll be at Rotary. Look forward to it. Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. We'll see you for lunch. He is Congressman Garret Graves. We do D.C. Current every single week. Hey, we blew right past your money now. Going to break here in a second. Going to come back with the outside in after that. I do need to tell you about the folks over at Mathern's Market. Got your lunch plans today? I know I do. I'll be at the Rotary meeting. But if you happen to be around campus, maybe swing by Mathern's for lunch today. They've got lunch specials every day and a fantastic deli counter, a fantastic lunch counter. Follow them on Facebook. They post up their specials around, 9:30, 10 o'clock every morning. That way you know what you're having for lunch before lunchtime rolls around. And, oh, by the way, full-service grocery store, too. So maybe knock out your groceries while you're grabbing your lunch. Underrated salad bar as well. Both locations of Mathern's. Downtown on 3rd or Nicholson and the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. As summer approaches, I'm going to be telling you more and more about their craft beer selection. Yeah, if you're hitting the beach, hitting the pool, maybe stop off for a couple six-packs along the way. But for now, check out their lunch specials. Mathern's Market, Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, right across the street from Tiger Stadium. All right. Galen says if the platforms are tailoring the message, they are or should be responsible for the content. If they are not tailoring, exceptions would be violence. They are equivalent to a bookstore. Galen, that's interesting. Elaborate on that, because I think I'm following you. If I've got it right in my mind, then yes, I tend to agree with you. But like at the end of the day, they're individual companies. They're not the government. We don't get to regulate what is. If a business has a sign that says no shirt, no shoes, no service, that's fine, right? We don't get to regulate whether or not shoes are allowed in a business. It's their business. It's not the government. Nyquilla says Garret needs to run for something with a bigger stick. Just seems like a common sense guy. Needs a bigger voice. I agree with you, but he's so perfect in his role. You ever have somebody that you don't want them to move up because you're worried about what would replace them where they're at? I'm sure he will be moving up in short order. I'm sure that won't be long. He is too smooth, too good. Hillar Moore should be, I believe. I never got confirmed back from his people, but Hillar comes on the first Wednesday of every month. Today would be the first Wednesday of the month. .755 Talk 107.3 FM at WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. The latest from CBS News coming your way about 4.5 minutes from right now. Thanks again to Congressman Garret Graves for hopping on board. And just one of those days where I could have gone another 30 minutes on the topics that we were covering and didn't get to half the topics that were on my list. But I appreciate his time every week. I like having that level of connection. And that's where he started with, right? When he gets to tour the district a little bit, to talk to people, to realize what our concerns are. Think about this. How many times through the media, how many times through newspapers, TV, whatever, is someone like Congressman Graves referred to as a lawmaker versus how many times are they referred to as a representative? I know I'm splitting hairs and we got to get to the outside in, but think about that. Lawmaker versus representative. Those two descriptors are completely different. Yes, they could be in Washington, D.C. writing laws all day long. Sure, and they do. But are they truly representing us? And it's times like this where he gets to make the rounds where, yes, you can find out who you are representing and what you should be representing for, which is why I love that access. I love talking to Congressman Carter as well. Being able to have that kind of conversation and real-time interaction with the YouTube audience as well. You post up a message on there. I don't know if I'm going to get to the question the right way, but I'm going to get to the question as best I can. So, thanks again to Congressman Graves. Coming up next hour, State Representative Richard Nelson from Mandeville is going to join us for an update on the legislative session. Hillar Moore will join us as well. Right now, we step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish with the Outside In. East Feliciana Parish, you think you know the story, but no, it's a different story. A mother and stepfather were indicted by a grand jury for negligent homicide Tuesday after a 6-year-old boy died from being shot in the head back in March. According to the East Feliciana Parish Sheriff's Department, Rebecca Hunt and Cameron Crump were in their car with their 6-year-old son on March 5th. Crump told deputies there was a gun in the driver's side door pocket. Crump said when he adjusted his seat, the gun went off, killing the child. That's not how this works. Deputies said the adults immediately drove the child to a hospital where he later died. Keeping it in East Feliciana Parish, back to the story that, well, we have been covering this week so far. A grand jury has indicted the parents of a woman who died in their home after spending years malnourished on a couch. Sheila and Clay Fletcher were charged with second-degree murder in the death of 36-year-old Lacey Fletcher, who was, quote, melted into the couch and engulfed with insects and feces when she died. They turned themselves in, were booked into the East Feliciana Parish Jail on Monday afternoon. Bond was set at $300,000 apiece as of this morning. The mom has bonded out. The dad remains in jail. Over to Livingston Parish, and we covered this a little bit with Franz earlier. Jared Ambo filed a request to have Dennis Perkins' trial delayed, pushing it back from May to October. Jared Ambo was successful in that request, saying there's more than 317 videos and 2,600 pictures that prosecutors have in their possession. He needs to review all of them before the trial can move forward. Closing out in St. Tammany Parish, state police stopped an 18-wheeler for a routine traffic stop on I-12 Monday morning, ended up seizing over 120 pounds of cocaine. Troopers became suspicious of criminal activity during the stop, requested permission to search the vehicle. During the search, they found an amount of cocaine estimated to be worth $5.5 million. That's the outside in. Let's catch CBS News on Talk 107.3. Roar! Okay. Bing bong. You do great asking my ill-worded question eloquently. I thought I butchered it, so thank you. Galen says Section 230 was initially proposed to protect bookstores, given that they didn't write the books, authors are responsible, but are simply offering all books for sale. Okay, that's exactly where I thought you were going with it, and I lean towards agreeing, but it's so much harder to get to the author, is it not? So we're comparing social media outlets to the new town square, right? Well, let's put this in town square perspective. If I'm standing in the town square and I'm shouting some treasonous stuff, right? That's on me. If you're holding a microphone up to my face to amplify that sound, isn't it also on you? And if it is also on you, isn't it up to you to pull the microphone away from my face? And look, I don't have a take on this either way, because I honestly, I don't know the answer. But if I'm the one amplifying your message, then I'm kind of just as guilty. Or if you're the one amplifying my message, you're kind of just as guilty. But at the same time, though, not your message. My frozen vid could be an NFT. Oh, wait. I got to reopen here. We're frozen? Beautiful. All good. Yep. Which I did make that one, by the way. If I defame you on this site, I am responsible for defamation, not YouTube. Correct. Well, but YouTube is the one that gave you the platform to defame me. Would an op-ed in a newspaper be a similar aspect? Like, if a newspaper were to present an op-ed, wouldn't they be held liable for the op-ed defaming somebody, giving them the I don't know. Well, it's a tough nut to crack. Seems like if you're holding the mic, you can just say it's not the mic holder's views or opinions of comments. Yeah, which would be an easy disclaimer. That's great, but that doesn't absolve you. If I'm holding up the mic and the person shouting in the mic says burn down the building, and I continue to hold the mic while he continues to say burn down the building, at a certain point you've got to look at the guy holding the mic saying take the mic away. Like, but I don't know how to do that legally. No, go for it. Byron, okay, thank you for letting me walk it down this path. Is Sprint responsible for misuse of your phone? It provided the platform. So, no. But that's private versus public. Your phone conversations are not amplified to thousands, if not millions of people. Your phone conversations don't get retweets. Your phone conversations aren't in the town square. They're private conversations. Just like if you were meeting in the back room of Phil's Oyster Bar and decided that you were going to overthrow the government, Phil's Oyster Bar isn't responsible. It was a private conversation. Phil's was just the table where you had that conversation. So that's, to me, that is a big discernible difference between private versus public. That being said, why are you using Sprint? Nothing? No? Voicemails can be. No, they can't. No, they can't unless they're used on a different platform. You're using the voicemail, but you're amplifying it via a different platform. It wasn't the voicemail that was the problem. It was the amplification of it. Ooh, but Sprint allows your tweets to go across their network to be posted on the town square. I think we get into intended use questions there. Oh, crap. I didn't pull up my history email. .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. God, so much we didn't get to with Congressman Graves earlier. Visiting with NATO allies and hitting up the Ukrainian border last week. We just ran out of time. That was just way too much to cover. But it's one of those ones where I get excited when representatives represent us, and the way to do that is by getting that level of feedback. It's the hands-on, it's the grassroots end of what we do as a nation. Any Hoosers. We got a lot of ground to cover this hour as well. Going to be a busy hour, so let's dive right in. Every day at this time, Jake takes us back in time. It's This Day in History.
Yes, sir! It is time for This Day in History. I'm going to switch things up for this show, for this particular day, for this segment. I'm actually going to kind of switch it up here. I think it's only right that I start this by saying, Happy May the 4th to all those tuning in. May the 4th be with you.
And with your spirit.
Absolutely.
See, I was Catholic on that one.
There you go. So we're going to be kicking things off. In 1868, the world's largest book, the Kuthadaw inscription shrines, recording whole of Buddhist scriptures on 729 marble tablets, completed and opened to the public in Burma.
Okay.
That's a big book.
It is.
Just 1 year later, in 1869, the Cincinnati Red Stockings, they play their first official baseball game, a win against the Great Western Baseball Club, 45-9. That
And they didn't even cover.
Dude, that's a football score right there.
Yep.
1878, Thomas Edison's phonograph was shown for the first time at the Grand Opera House.
Cool.
In 1932, Al Capone enters Atlanta Penitentiary, convicted of income tax evasion. You know, that old chestnut. In 1973, the longest baseball game in Philadelphia's Veterans Stadium. The Phillies beat the Braves 5-4 in 20 innings.
Now think about that. 20 innings, 5-4. The first baseball game, 45-9, didn't take nearly as long.
Nah.
Why is that?
I think the game was just on a downward trend. That was about 100 years prior to that game I just mentioned. That's insane.
Oh.
In 1992, U.S. Army and Marine Corps forces arrive in Los Angeles to end rioting following the acquittal of 4 police officers over the beating of Rodney King.
While we're talking about riots, I got to bring it back to 1970.
What happened?
4 Kent State University students were shot down by National Guard members during an anti-Vietnam War demonstration.
Jeez.
Not a riot, a protest, a demonstration, but nonetheless, Kent State shooting happened today.
In 1999, The Mummy, that film starring Brendan Fraser, premiered in the U.S. In 2002, Barry Bonds hits his 400th home run as a San Francisco Giant in a 3-0 win over Cincinnati. Bonds is the first player with 400 homers for one team and 100 with another, which was the Pirates. 2008, Seth MacFarlane reaches an agreement worth $100 million with Fox to keep Family Guy and American Dad on television until 2012, making MacFarlane the world's highest paid television writer.
Crazy when we Giannetti, Gary Giannetti was on last week, one of the writers for Family Guy, and we were talking about how the overwhelming popularity that brought it back at first, like Family Guy was canceled because nobody was watching, and then turn around and boom, all of a sudden Seth MacFarlane's got $100 million.
Yeah, that's some good business right there for sure. And in 2015, Golden State Warriors Stephen Curry is named MVP for the 2014-15 NBA season. That's all the events. What am I missing?
That was it. I had the Kent State thing.
And let's get to the birthdays. I tried writing this one down, but I simply couldn't. I'm just going to call them Elon Musk's kid turns 2 years old.
Do what?
Elon Musk, his child.
Okay.
I couldn't spell or pronounce the name even if I tried.
Well, you were reading it, though.
I read it.
All right.
I mean, it was algebra, basically.
Yeah, it is.
So, happy birthday, obviously. Will Arnett turns 52.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Victor Oladipo turns 30.
And Victor Oladipo.
Current Dallas Mavericks small forward Dorian Finney-Smith turns 29. Happy birthday to our best defender on the team. And Man City, he will go down as a legend for sure. Fernandinho turns 37. Happy birthday to all those mentioned. What am I missing?
You are missing Dawn Staley, South Carolina's women's basketball coach, born on this day in 1970. Arguably the second best basketball coach in the Southeastern Conference. Our own Kim Mulkey being clear number one.
Yeah, I didn't think
Rory McIlroy, Irish golfer Rory McIlroy, born on this day in 1989.
I know that one.
Aaron Andrews is 44 years old today. And Lance Bass. Lance Bass, 43.
Happy birthday to all those mentioned. I didn't have any deaths to talk about.
I got one.
What you got?
Don Shula.
Don Shula.
Don Shula. You look at me quizzically like that's a random...
I'm not saying it's random. I'm just saying I'm not familiar.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's a Hall of Fame football coach.
Oh.
Coached the Dolphins. He died on this day 2 years ago at 90 years old.
May he rest in peace. I would have multiple holidays, but
nope,
there really aren't. May the 4th be with you.
Nope.
That is this day in history.
All right, 812 Talk 107.3 FM. Quick break. When we come back, let's dive into the legislative session. We've been trying to do this at least once a day during the session, as there's a lot going on, a lot to unpack. State Representative Richard Nelson from Mandeville joins us next. I don't know. can't do this shit during the show. I can't. Stop it. You need Richard Nelson's phone number. I don't know what Jay's doing in the afternoon, but it's leaning. It's hard to believe it's Jay because it's leaning to the right. Hey-o!
Wait! I don't think he even uses that chair.
No, I think he uses this one. I don't know what's wrong with this one. Why it's...
That's so bizarre.
Okay. .815, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Time to get a closer look at this legislative session. Time to check in with State Representative Richard Nelson of Mandeville. Representative Nelson, welcome back. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. Very, very busy session continues, and y'all are getting a lot done, to be sure. I want to dive into a couple of your bills in a little bit, but let's start with an overview of what's going on in the session. What has caught your eye? What has caught your attention?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is probably the volume of money that we have to spend, all the surplus money, and plus all the federal dollars that came in from coronavirus. I think that's probably the biggest headline. We're making a lot of progress on paying down some debts we had. I think we're putting a lot of that money into projects that I think have been on the back burner for a while. So that's probably the biggest story. In Louisiana, we're a poor state. We don't usually have billions of dollars to spend on things we need.
Are we seeing any inkling of things going to long-term, recurring costs and not one-time dollars? Because there was a very intentional effort before the session to make sure that didn't happen.
Yeah, I would say the only thing that's probably recurring is the teachers' raises. Right now in the budget that was passed by the House, it's got a $1,500 raise for teachers. I think $750 for the support staff. So that's going to be a recurring expense. But at the end of the day, I think when you look at how much inflation is right now, there might be a standing still. Okay.
State Representative Richard Nelson is our guest. We're talking a little bit about the legislative session. I want to dive into a couple of your bills before we get back to the overview. HB 323, to be sure, creates the Back on Track Louisiana pilot program. I find this one very intriguing. If you could, walk the audience through it.
Yeah, so basically what this does is it kind of creates a program where, like for prisoners that are held in local jails, that it creates a system of incentive payments. So when they hit certain targets when they come into the jail, by the time they're released, it'll actually just give some kind of bonus payment to the sheriff or the who usually operates most of the jails. It'll give them bonuses for things like teaching inmates to read, making sure they have a job, getting them a GED. So it's kind of like a very results-based bill where you're not just throwing money at a problem and hoping that it fixes it. It really just pays for results, which I think is kind of what we need. And when you look at the recidivism rates, right, so about 46% of people that are housed in local jails will end up re-offending and coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about half of the people that are in jail right now are going to commit a crime. So you're looking at how do you reduce that amount of crime, especially with, these are people that you already have. You know, they're already here. They don't have anything to do. You might as well teach them to read. You might as well give them a professional certification so they can get a job, get them a GED, really give them all these elements that they need to succeed. And then the chances of them coming back, I think, are going to be significantly less. And it's going to be driven by data. So you can kind of shift where you put that money so that it's most effective.
Yeah, as I was reading through the bill, attain a 10th grade reading level, obtain a high school diploma or GED, industry-based certificate. Basically, while you're in prison, you're building a resume.
Yeah, and I mean, you're looking at how do we get people out of this kind of generational poverty, generational crime, and that's really what we have here in Louisiana. Yeah. We have such a crime problem. It's really how do you prevent that going forward? And you really have these guys, captured, right? So you really you can fix them while they're here. Once you let them go, then you don't want them out there committing more crimes and coming back because you're going to spend money on it either way. And the choice is just, do you want to rehabilitate them and make them productive members of society, or do you want to just pay to throw them in jail and have all these victims and all these other problems that the crime causes in the community?
But the unwritten part about this one, Richard, and this is the part that I find the most intriguing, is you have skin in the game on the prisoner's end. You have buy-in and a level of investment of their own time and talents that when they're released from prison, they're like, well, no, I've already put in this level of work. I've already put in this, bit of, for lack of a better term, sweat equity into bettering my own future. It would make it that much more, a future crime would be that much tougher of a decision to make when it comes to risk versus reward.
Exactly. I mean, if you don't have a job, if you don't, you don't have a bank account, you don't have it, you can't read. At the end of the day, crime is probably one of the only ways that you're going to have any opportunity, right?
Yes.
And so what you're trying to do is raise that opportunity cost. If you're making $25 an hour as a welder, you're not going to be selling drugs or doing these other things because it's just not worth it anymore.
Talk with Richard Nelson about what's going on this legislative session. A couple of his bills that I've been looking at. Another one is HB. Oh, wait, before we move on from that one, what's the feedback been on this one? Has it been well received?
Yeah, I mean, it's been positive. I think that when you look at the problem with crime, I think we all kind of jump to, hey, we need to throw people in jail. In reality, we have laws that can address a lot of the crime problems that we have now. But the question is, how do we address the future? How do we make sure that Louisiana is not the number one incarceration place in the world as we are right now? And I think bills like this is how you fix that problem.
Well, shifting over to HB 269, this would prohibit the promotion of certain students with reading deficiencies not remedied by the end of third grade. And what goes into this, and what would be the outcome for these students?
Yeah, so this bill is based on some changes that Mississippi did. Mississippi actually passed this exact bill in 2013, and as a result, it went into effect in 2015. As a result, they've gone from 49th in the country in reading, basically where we are, and they've gone from 49th to 29th in about 4 or 5 years. And so they've had significant improvement, and this is one of the elements of those reforms that they implemented. And basically it just says we're going to hold kids back if they score in the bottom, if they can't read, if they score in the bottom of the assessment, then we're going to hold them back, and we're going to give them intensive reading training and so that they can advance after that. Basically, we're stopping the idea that we're just going to promote people who can't read until they graduate and they still can't read. And that's really what exists now in the state. And so one in 4 fourth graders actually reads at a proficient level in Louisiana. So it's a huge problem. And when you're talking about you can't have a job, what are the odds of you going to jail and committing crimes if you can't read? It's significant.
Yeah, it's not a direct correlation, but there is a lot to take away from that data, to be sure. Now, does this bill work in tandem with the proposed ESA bill that would allow students to move to a different school should they not meet those reading requirements?
So, I mean, if that bill passes, I think that, or if either bill passes, I think that they could work together because, you know, it would give you the opportunity to change if you're not reading on the level that you need to. At the same time, this bill is going to be in every public school. So every public school is going to be held to this requirement. It doesn't go into effect for 2 years, so it gives some runway to, you know, implement the assessments and figuring out. The most important thing is really figuring out at what score level do you hold kids back. And it takes about 2 years, I think, to work that out. But for example, Mississippi initially set the bar really low, and you know had a fair number of kids held back. And every year they've been able to raise that bar. At the same time, they've had fewer kids held back. So it's really an effective way of just implementing change throughout the system. And it's really not third grade teachers that you're kind of making responsible for this. It's the whole system. It's from kindergarten to third grade. Everybody has to work as a team to really get the kids up to speed on reading.
Talk with State Representative Richard Nelson about the ongoing legislative session. This one feels like it should pass with zero problems.
I'm never that optimistic about things in the legislature, but I think it's a great bill. And I think at the end of the day, the results speak for themselves. I mean, we can look right next door to Mississippi and see they've made tremendous progress. And really, it's an apples-to-apples comparison. It's not, comparing us to Connecticut or Massachusetts or something. It's literally right next door. They have all the same problems that we do.
You do realize how much it hurts every time you say we can improve by looking at Mississippi.
It kills me. I'm not going to lie. It kills me.
What else have you been working on that I might have missed? What are you working on that's moving forward throughout the session?
So one of the things that I think is important is I have the constitutional amendment to dedicate half of any surplus money to paying off the unfunded accrued liability on the retirement debt. That's a huge. We owe about $17 billion, and we pay $1.4 billion in interest on that debt every year, just in interest. So that's like basically a Baton Rouge bridge every year that we pay in interest. So that's not even affecting the principal. So that's just a huge burden that we have, and that's from years of underfunding the systems. Legislators were just kicking the can down the road for a long time. And so, but every dollar that we pay off early saves us about $7.
Oh,
wow. So I basically said, well, you know what we should do is when we have this extra money lying around, paying that off, it has huge benefits looking forward. So it doesn't benefit us today as much because, it's money that we can't spend on bridges or whatever projects we want to put our name on. But in the future, it makes the state much more set up for success. And I think that's a really important thing just because it manifests itself over time.
And this would take a constitutional amendment, which would mean it would need to go to the polls as well, correct?
Yeah. So the idea is that I think, for a politician, it's very easy to, you want to spend money on things that you can go back to your district and say, hey, look at all the money that look at all the money I brought to our district or the bridge that I built or something. But there's very little incentive for most people to look long-term about how do I save the most money. Nobody brags about how much retirement debt they paid off. But 10%, just for perspective, 10% of every educational dollar spent in K-12 education in Louisiana just goes to that retirement debt. So 10% of every dollar. So when you pay that off, it really frees up that money to do other things, like give teachers raises, improve all the curriculums, and it's across the board.
You mentioned paying for a new bridge every year. How close are we to actually seeing a Baton Rouge bridge, a new bridge over the Mississippi River come to fruition?
I don't know. I mean, I can tell you that when I got elected, I wanted to build a traffic circle in Madisonville, and they told me it's going to take 5 to 10 years, and that's for a traffic circle. So I don't know how far away the bridge is. I think it's going to take a lot of initiative and leadership to get there for sure.
Well, initially the governor wanted to set aside $500 million, invest $500 million into it. That got shut down. But I'm told that there's monies in other areas that could recoup that. Look, you come from an area where you've got your own traffic issues as well. Widening I-12 has been a major issue. It's a major congestion problem down your way. When it comes to getting, a seat at the table for infrastructure dollars, everything's been a tough fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just we've chronically underinvested in infrastructure, and it's really a recurring expense. I mean, we talk about in the legislature that like it's not a recurring expense, that it's a one-time expenditure. But at the end of the day, all these things require maintenance, and where we are now is that the maintenance on the existing infrastructure eats up almost all the money. So you really don't have that much money available for these big projects or any kind of expansion. And that's just a fundamental problem that we have to address here is how are we going to pay for infrastructure? And that's something the legislature really needs to get behind. I think we did rededicate some money from the vehicle sales tax. That's going to be about $300 million a year. I think that makes a dent in it. At the end of the day, we have like a $14 billion backlog in projects. So we really need to have some kind of funding that's going to support that.
He is State Representative Richard Nelson from Mandeville. The session continues to wear on. Oh, wait, one more before I get you out of here, and it's back to the one-time dollars. There was a concerted effort to refill the unemployment trust fund. Has that seen any pushback at all, or is that going to get done? Because I know this was a serious concern to the governor heading into the session.
No, I mean, that's something, at least for me, I think that all of us agree with that. I mean, I haven't seen really any pushback on it at all. I mean, I don't always agree with the governor, but I think that really is what that money was for. We spent so much, I think there was over $1 billion in the trust fund before coronavirus, and, got depleted significantly. So put that money back in the trust fund. It avoids those kind of automatic tax increases that would have hit businesses on their unemployment insurance if that hadn't gone into effect. So I think it's a smart thing to do, and puts us in a better place going forward.
But the only disagreement I have here throughout the whole thing is you say nobody brags on paying down retirement debt, yet we carry Dave Ramsey from 1 to 4 right here on Talk 107.3.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, though, your personal stuff is one thing, and then I think it's on the state level. I think most people don't know we owe $17 billion and pay $1.4 billion in interest.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous number. It really is. And when it's put in the way that you put it, though, it does make it a very, very real thing. In the meanwhile, the session wears on. Can we get you back on at the end of the session for a full recap?
Absolutely. Anytime.
I appreciate you hopping on board. Richard Nelson from Mandeville. His district, by the way, little known fact right here. His district includes Bayou Castine. Bayou Castine was the set of Santa Jaws. We're going to take a break. News is coming your way in just a little bit. Hey, don't forget about the 5K giveaway. The 5K giveaway going on right now at Talk1073.com. No, this is not a 5K that you would run. This is giving you $5,000. Talk1073.com. Check it out. Register right now. The 5K giveaway is going on. Quick break. Checking news. Checking traffic. Checking weather. Coming back with District Attorney Hillar Moore right after this on Talk 1073. Oh, man. The usual. Oh, you're right here, right here.
So this is Crime Victims' Rights Month.
Yes.
And Caitlin is one of the Victims Assistance Counselors.
Yes.
She's substituting for the director. Yeah, I'm not even mad before.
Yes.
So what I did, Brian, is I kind of introduce things if you want.
Sure.
And got questions here to help you keep along.
Absolutely.
But Hillar's going to do a good amount of talking as well.
Caitlin will do all of that tonight. You know, okay.
Yeah, I got a little deep dive into what Caitlin did last week. It was
See, I've already told him.
Enlightening to be sure.
I'm going to have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, no, all good.
I just have some questions so you can kind of.
Yes.
phone all night with Anna. I got her an appointment this morning. She couldn't come to work today. Her neck was pretty bad.
Really?
So her and Condon took today off.
Took Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, no, that's as well. So gave everybody a break. Ready for the legislature to get over with.
Yes and no. I want the full, I would like to know where everything ends up, but it's just so much content. It makes show prep so easy. And it all ends up, affecting us.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. I'm disheartened about the bridge. Not surprised, but disheartened. The governor had a good idea.
You think it's dead?
Do what?
You think it's dead?
I think we're going to Louisiana this thing till it is. There's too much potential for too many hands in the cookie jar at the same time, and nobody ends up getting a cookie because of it. So, $14 billion backlog, and every session we do the same thing where we parse dollars down to where you can fill potholes, but you can't do real. You can't. A bridge would be monumental. Like a major thing that would affect all of us. And the same is true with 8 different other projects around the state. Elevating Highway 1 is another one. Extending 49 all the way down to New Orleans would be a game changer for hurricane evacuation.
Train's coming.
Yeah.
I think the bridge is going to get done, but
You do? I hope so. I hope you're right.
that abortion decision will be a thing. All the retroactive, non-unanimous jury, that's going to be a thing. So all that's coming up
Yeah.
legislatively.
Yeah.
So you got a long way to go.
Last name was Babin, right?
Mm-hmm.
You use Babbitt. You got one of them hyphenated last names.
I do
Oh,
not.
You don't?
No, I don't. He just really likes to talk garbage.
Huh? You're not hyphenated?
No.
Ask her about all the shit she's got in her office, like air fresheners, cleaners, feng shui gardens,
It's an oil diffuser.
whatever.
A Zen garden.
Got a ball chair.
A yoga ball
I mean, it's
chair.
whatever's different she got.
Okay.
She one of them kind.
I
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I get my workout while I sit at my desk all day.
Bounce
While I
around.
just
Oh,
sit on my
go.
yoga ball chair. And I don't have time to, take a break during the day and go for a walk.
Can you ask her about how many vacations she's had since she's been?
Oh, Hillar.
I mean,
Hillar says, "Oh well, and I gave you 8 months off to go have a baby. I took 6 weeks off. 6
Should've
weeks.
Same
been
thing.
4.
That's the least
Should've been
amount of
4.
time anyone in your office
it
took."
just lets you know that
My mom
6
didn't take
weeks
no days
just
off.
Feels like 8 months.
Right.
It lets you know how valuable you are. That's all he's really saying.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear that.
Yep. I'm valuable, Hillar.
837 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. District Attorney Hillar Moore and Caitlin Babbitt are in just a moment. We're talking about Crime Victims' Rights Month going on all month long. Before we get to that, though, got to give you that forecast. We're getting up to 90 today. Overnight low tonight gets down to 69. Now, tomorrow into Friday, we've got a pretty severe chance of rain. In fact, it's an 80% chance of rain. But it looks like what this is going to be is not until tomorrow night. I'm looking at the hour-by-hour forecast, and it's going to be the overnight hours predominantly. So be ready for another hot one tomorrow, getting up to 90 again. This rain and this thunderstorm is not expected to cool things off a great deal because our high on Friday is 89, our high on Saturday is 90, our high on Sunday, 92. Right now, we're at 74 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. All right, it is Crime Victims' Rights Month. Time to welcome back to the show both Hillar Moore and Caitlin Babin. Welcome aboard. How y'all doing?
Great, Brian. How you doing?
Good.
Doing
good.
very well this morning. What does Crime Victims' Rights Month mean from the District Attorney's Office perspective?
It's a lot of work for a lot of people in the office, but it's mainly recognition of the victims, survivors of crime, particularly violent crime, to kind of recognize them and honor them as to what they go through, what they mean to us in our system. Very difficult month for a lot of them because it brings back a lot of memories. We bring a lot of people back. And I know that later on the show we'll talk to Caitlin about the picnic we had this past weekend, and one of our guest speakers that were there that was really emotional and brought everything home for what this is all about.
How long have we acknowledged this as a month, or I don't want to call it a holiday, but just a commemoration? You know,
for me, for at least the last 12 years or so is my recollection. It could have been going longer than that, but maybe not on the scale that it has been in the last several years.
And when it comes to victims' assistance and crime victims' rights, this breaks down into a number of different areas.
It does. And so, before we had victims' assistance counselors and coordinators like Caitlin and the others, we only had attorneys and investigators that would talk to victims. And they generally were in court all of the time. And you can imagine frustration that victims would have when they call for their lawyer, their assistant DA, and they're not able to answer or have other questions that are maybe non-legal that they want to know about. And a lawyer can't give them the answers that a regular counselor can. A lot of frustration. And we've seen that abate over the last 12 years because of the work of the counselors that we have. And so I know Caitlin can talk to you a lot about that, but me personally as a lawyer and the DA have seen a big change in how victims are serviced by our office and the compassion that they have with these counselors versus a lawyer who's in court with 400 cases a day, or sorry, a 400 caseload. It's a complete difference.
Caitlin Babin is with us as well. With the victims' assistance is your life, basically. How do you define your primary role?
I would say the primary role is just helping victims kind of walk through the criminal process. It's a long process for most, couple years. And so just assisting them, kind of helping them navigate them through that process.
Is the main goal here just the compassion of it, or are there other dividends that are paid from this? Let me rephrase the question. Do we see better prosecution because we have more help and more of a support network for the victims?
Absolutely. And I think we're able to keep in touch with the victim throughout the process, throughout the 1, 2, 3, 4 year process. And so a lot of times we need them to testify, so we have them, we keep up with them, we get them into counseling, get them, grief counseling or trauma counseling or whatever they may need, and kind of walk with them so we have them to testify if needed.
Surely staying in touch with the victim from the beginning is the biggest thing. Because after that, things kind of get a little crazy at that point, and time comes along. We have so many cases that come over and over. So staying in touch with them on a consistent basis, knowing birthdays, knowing holidays, knowing what's important to them. These counselors can do that, whereas a lawyer just really cannot because of the time constraints. And so it does make for us a witness that's available to testify and to assist. And we get to know them a lot better because, you and I talked many times about victims and defendants are oftentimes related, live in the same neighborhood, family members, makes their job even harder. And that's why we really need these counselors.
And how does that change from case to case or from type of crime to type of crime? Because I would imagine the type of victim is just as diverse as the caseload, which is just as diverse as the overall populace.
Yeah, we have victims from homicide cases to my lawnmower got stolen. Right. So the different type of victim is definitely different, and some need a little more attention, some need more resources, more counseling, more things like that than others.
And we also have family members that may disagree on how they wish for us to handle the case, which makes it even more difficult.
Well, I think I can envision the scenario in which you'd be talking about here. How do you handle that? How do you handle that?
we sit in rooms often. It's just about every evening we sit in a room with a group of victims' families and discuss the facts and the legalities of it and what we can or can't prove and what we should maybe do or what's their consideration. And they all have a different opinion about the system, fair, not fair, going to work or not work, what the facts are, what the laws, what they hear on the street versus what we can prove. Very difficult meetings, oftentimes very contentious. Brutal is not the right word, but it's tough on everyone on both sides to try to explain as a lawyer and DA trying to explain what I can and cannot do versus what do you mean you can or can't, but they killed my son.
Right.
And what do you mean he can only get this amount of years? And when that conversation moves to a juvenile defendant, when defense counsel and groups want that juvenile who's 18, 17, 18, want him to be sentenced to juvenile life, which is 21, versus being transferred to adult court, those conversations are extremely difficult to have.
We just had Tony Clayton on last hour talking about that exact same thing.
He's in the middle of the fight right now because of lack of resources, and so Tony knows, and Tony's compassionate about what he does, and we've talked about this a lot.
Walk me through a couple of and I'm not asking for individual stories, but a couple of the different scenarios that you would face on a regular basis, talking about different types of crime, whether it be a juvenile crime, whether it be a sex offense. I don't want to get into the stolen lawnmower because, with a zero-turn radius lawnmower, there would be some serious grief counseling. But there are other crimes out there as well.
Yeah, I think we have different situations where, you have domestic situations where the victim doesn't want to go forward and they don't want to pursue charges, and then you have their mom who calls and says, no, he continually abuses her and I want to go forward, but she's not the victim. We need the victim to testify. So it kind of gets tricky with that. And same thing, like he said, with the homicides, with the juveniles, and the life crimes, the life sentence versus juveniles, not getting the full life sentence that they would see in adult court, is all pretty tricky.
What do you do in the instance where, a domestic specifically, where the victim themselves does not want to move forward? I mean, does it just mean you got to completely take your foot off the gas, Hillar?
Yes and no. It just depends. Obviously, you need a victim to testify. But in a homicide case, you don't have your victim is dead, and that victim doesn't testify, and we still prosecute cases. So it depends on who the defendant is. We level defendants A through D, as you and I have talked before. If he's a level A offender, we're going to do the best we can to prosecute him with or without the victim. We may have to use the victim's statement to the police, may have to use body camera, may have to use a 911 call. But we try to do no more harm or damage to the victim, because oftentimes that victim, as you know, is put in the bullseye of that defendant. So it's a difficult decision, tough to make.
When it comes to victims' rights, there's also the conversation of victims' needs, and this comes up specifically with domestics as well, because a lot of the hesitation to move forward would be, what do I do tomorrow? How does your office play a role there?
Well, we actually have our new Family Justice Center, and they have a lot of resources. It's almost a one-stop shop. We have someone from our office there who reaches out to the victims of these level offenders, and she can help them with various needs, whether it's relocating away from that offender, trying to find somewhere out of state, helping to get a rental deposit paid for, all of that with relocation as far as counseling and things like that. So our Family Justice Center has played an important role in helping, especially the domestic victims, with any resources they may need and things like that.
Where is growth needed within your office?
I would say resources, absolutely. We're just always in need of resources, whether it's financial or more different types of counseling offered to people, and the financial need is a
biggest problem that we have is across the nation is having victims, particularly domestic violence or crimes of violence, really want to seek services, particularly domestic violence, because they go back to the same person. It's hard for them to get services and live in the same house. So that's very, very difficult, but that's where we hope the Family Justice Center will fill in. The other is, maybe we can talk about it a little bit in the next segment, is witness protection, which is a big issue, and
so
then that
both
is
of
a
these
big need
things
for us.
are kind of the nature of my question about what do I do tomorrow. Like, yes, we can prosecute today, but this is the home, the livelihood, the the dollars that they would go back to. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean dollars being spent on our end to be put into the system. If there's another way, there would be another way. But it is all part of a larger equation that is a hindrance to the prosecutorial process.
No doubt, because that is the financial tie, is probably the person that's in jail and has beaten up this woman.
Now, that being said, this is one segment of your overall office, and your
Yes.
overall office is hamstrung to get enough resources at the end of the day anyway. There's the brass tacks of putting people away. There is this aspect of it from victims' rights and victims' assistance. How tough is it for Caitlin or Caitlin's role to get a seat at the table to make sure she has the resources she needs? Because, look, we got a backlog of cases as it stands right now.
Oh, they're slammed with people.
Yeah.
And so we've beefed up that staff as much as any office in the state. We have I think the best staff with victims counselors. We have a total of 13. And we have some that specialize. So we are way ahead of the curve in Baton Rouge, but could use more.
We got a break here for just a second. We're going to check your money now. We'll check traffic again, continuing with District Attorney Hillar Moore and Caitlin Babin from Victims Assistance in just a little bit. Before we take that break, though, got to remind you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. They've got 2 locations, Florida Boulevard in Mid-City and the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier in the southeastern portion of the parish. Great deals going on all the time. I know the April truckload sale is over with. Swing by anyway. Grab yourself a mattress because Mitch has got deals for you. And he's offering free delivery if you drop my name. Mitch, and you heard about it right here. You will get free delivery and a free pillow. Financing is available. Look, having a productive day starts with getting a good night's sleep. Getting a good night's sleep starts with a good mattress. That mattress that's just right for you is found at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. Here comes your money now. All right. You might be in the running with me for worst handwriting ever. I could not
Yes.
make half of this.
He asked me if I had
This
the
is the
answers to
best.
all these questions.
This is my best.
Yes, 'cause I didn't know
Um,
what they were.
Qualifications, training, types of cases handled. We've done most difficult cases, victims' needs, why a VAC, not an attorney, witness protection is pretty much the.
Let's go into witness
Yeah,
protection
let's-
next. And then where were
maybe-
we going with qualifications? Weren't we?
It's just not a regular person you hire. I mean, they're training that they go throughout the year, but that was just if you need to fill time.
He
Never
also
a
got some
shortage.
stuff on car seat
Yeah,
safety.
car seat.
Well, yes. So we do need to address that as well.
That's-
And by the way, we
I
are
just happened
of
to
course,
bring that.
still on YouTube.
Yeah.
Is your child in the right car seat? Was
Just an awareness campaign
okay.
that's going on now. These are available, and you can always go to the state police here and the sheriff's office and
They have 'em
Central. They can install, and they'll check. I think they also give them away, don't they? I mean, they'll check your car seats for you.
All right. Well, we'll save the
If we
last
need
60
that,
seconds.
if you
Yeah,
need
we'll,
it.
we'll save the last 60 seconds just to bring that up.
Okay.
But witness protection and the qualifications, and I think we'll be good to go there.
The picnic.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
recap the picnic. Yeah.
Yeah. We do that. Start with that. Well, unless you want to do protection first, and that'll end on a lighter note.
Actually, you're right. Let's do it in that order
Yeah.
because that. yeah.
So when's Taco Day? Is it Thursday, tomorrow, or next day?
Taco Day? Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco
Whatever.
de Mayo's tomorrow.
Oh.
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Insurance companies often discourage people from getting insurance. I can't get you more, even after our fee, then you owe us nothing. Not even a cost. I'm Spencer County. I'd like to help.
Hey, while we are live on YouTube, Lucas asked a question. How does Darian Rogers, who killed a woman fleeing the sheriff's office, being released to the street with a $62,000 bond, $7,000 bail, service the victims of crime in Baton Rouge? Is that even in your hands?
No, I mean the bonds are set by the court, obviously, and he was charged with manslaughter. The bond was $62,000. That's around what manslaughters generally carry, but look, it just depends. You have to look at his record. My understanding was that he had no record. I know that victim's family was very frustrated by what I read. I haven't spoken with them personally yet. I know a family member of one of the victims, and they are concern. Particularly, I think he maybe have posted something after getting out of jail, which caused people concern. We're looking at the bond just to see if there's any way that there are grounds to ask for an increase or revocation, and so we're looking into that now. But the question's right. If I'm the victim, I'm pissed.
Yeah, big time. And it's so been down this path before. We've talked about this before about how it's the crime problem in Baton Rouge is multifaceted, and there's one angle that gets this finger pointed at them.
Yeah.
And the level of frustration is starting to bubble over.
Yeah.
This crap that went down with the drag racing of the donuts or whatever Saturday night, I'm assuming we're going to see a lot more in the very near future.
I hope so. The question will always be, can you prove who was in that car doing the driving? That's always going to be the issue.
Yeah.
Do you have a witness? How can you prove it? But obviously it coincided with the time of the contraflow, I think, for the concert.
Yeah.
Everything was
made it that much worse. We have drag racing going on in Baton Rouge every damn weekend. I hear it from my house.
I mean, I've heard it and seen reports, Top Golf around that area and Plank Road, Hollywood.
Right up Florida Boulevard. Florida Sherwood.
Yeah.
And I, for the life of me, can't understand it. Because if they'd go over to Choctaw, no one would ever hear them. Three blocks away, you're good.
But I believe that a lot of their point is to be recognized and maybe even to be chased and to video what they do. Whether that's, when I'm telling you is accurate, that's my belief.
Okay. No, okay. But, yeah,
it's dangerous.
Do what?
And it's dangerous, and particularly when the police get involved in a chase, it becomes even more dangerous.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've actually had a chase go up my street before. And I live within Sherwood, so to go through residential streets and whatnot, just baffling. I think that those that partake in this might have bitten off more than they can chew by taking it to that level with the Garth Brooks concert.
Yeah.
It's like you were kind of in the background a little bit. It was late night. Weren't bothering a whole lot of people. Now
it takes some organization and planning to do that.
Yeah.
To block off streets and.
Especially a major intersection.
Yeah.
And
.856 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along, continuing with District Attorney Hillar Moore and Caitlin Babin from the Victims Assistance Office. Caitlin was on last week and mentioned a picnic was going on last weekend. I want to wrap up with that, but before that, we got to talk about witness protection a little bit because that plays into the entire level of comfort to testify, the entire level of cooperation as well. So let's talk witness protection.
So I think that's probably the toughest part of their job is trying to coordinate some type of protections, maybe the wrong word, assistance may be the better. It's hard for us to protect people at the DA's office and even police departments. But as you and I talked many times before, homicide and shootings are generally retaliatory. Yes. And they're shooting at each other back and forth. And then if they see you're a witness, then maybe your house gets shut up. So now it falls on to them and us with the police to relocate them. Can you put them up somewhere? And it came down to the other questions of resources. So where do we put someone? How do we pay for it? Is there a hotel that we can put them up? Where do we get the money? Generally, we use our office credit cards, sometimes personal credit cards. Can we find or have people donate locations that are safe, that have security systems to put them in and their grandparents, mom, dad, children? How can you get them to school if it's during the school year when they move from where they live and get on a bus and go to school?
Right.
A lot of issues that to deal with, but Caitlin has particularly dealt with a lot of these types of situations.
Well, and Chief Paul has said it on this show as well, is that today's victim is tomorrow's suspect, and today's suspect is tomorrow's victim. It's cyclical. How do you break the cycle?
Well, that's hard, and that's what a lot of our programs are geared toward, helping those who are in that sort of situation get out, and that's what we try to focus on as well, is getting these people out of that area, that situation, being with that person, or just being involved in that type of crowd, and try to get them to move away from that, so then they're not going to be a witness tomorrow, or a victim tomorrow, or even a suspect tomorrow. But like Hillar said, the resources with the witness protection is a major thing, because we have to relocate them. Well, their kids take the bus. So
Right.
now how do they get to school? They don't have money to pay for gas. They don't have, food, or, they have to rush out of their house and they don't have any of their belongings. So we have to provide them clothes, get new driver's license, ID card, birth certificates, all sorts of things like that.
Got about a minute left here. Picnic last weekend. Let's wrap up by a little bit of a brighter note.
Yeah, the picnic went great. We had a really good turnout. I know there was several other community events going on that day, but we still definitely had a good turnout. And we had a speaker who had lost her husband to gun violence, who did a great job. We had raffles, giveaways. Everything turned out great. Weather.
Yeah, every section in the DA's office put together a basket. It was right around Easter time, obviously, and they put together some pretty elaborate baskets. And we raffled those baskets off to the kids and the families that were there. And we're talking about some big baskets that these groups put together, and it's pretty cool to see. And a lot of food, music, a lot of folks showed up.
We got to get out of here. We're just straight up out of time on the air. District Attorney Hillar Moore, Caitlin Babin, thank you all so much for coming in. A lot of very valuable information. Stick around. Fox News Rundown's next.
Hi, Brian. Thanks, man.
Yeah, we didn't get to the seat.
we're good.
Child seat.
We're
thing.
good.
Yeah, the witness protection thing is. Oh wait, YouTube. I will see y'all tomorrow. We've already got a stacked up show, and I'm adding to even more. Tomorrow you're gonna want to be here. So see you then.